Will the April 17th, 2013 meeting of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission please come to order? Thank you all for your attendance this evening. For the benefit of those present who may not have participated in the P&Z meeting, I will review our public hearing procedure, which is as follows. We will read the legal notice for the public hearing portion of this meeting as published in the local newspaper. The applicants will then be invited to come forward and present their case, explaining to the Commission and the public what is specifically being requested of the subject property. Written comments from town agencies pertaining to the application will then be read into the record if the Commission has received any. The Commissioners will then ask their clarifying questions, and the public will then be invited to ask any questions they have about the application. At the conclusion of the questions, I will then ask those in attendance who support the application to please come forward and make a statement, and then I will ask those who oppose the application to please come forward and make a statement. As this is a public hearing, it will be necessary for those coming forward to ask questions or to speak for or against any application to please identify themselves and state their name and address for the record prior to proceeding. At the conclusion of all statements from the public and the applicant, I will close the public hearing on the application. The applicants and the public are then free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearings and the regular meeting, at which time the Commission will discuss each application under consideration and try to reach a decision. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decisions of this Commission. Any applicant and or aggrieved party with legal standing will have the right to appeal this decision to Superior Court within the statutory time frame if they so desire. All decisions reached at this meeting will be available to the public the next day by either visiting or calling the Planning and Zoning Office after 9:30 a.m. Seated this evening, the following Guilford Planning and Zoning Commissioners: David Grigsby, Walter Corbeil, Andre Bauer, Peter Golitz, Kim Bailey, Frank DeAndrea. Town staff present this evening is George Crowell, Town Planner, Reggie Reed, Zoning Enforcement Officer. Our recording secretary is Donette, and the videographer is Shannon Gale. Will the secretary please read the legal notice?
Legal notice, Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on April 17th, 2013 at 7:30 p.m. at the Nathaniel B. Green Community Center, Monunketuck Room, 2nd floor, 32 Church Street, Guilford, Connecticut, for the following purposes. 1. 111 West Lane, LLC, property located at 111 West Lane, map 5, lot 31A, zone R6, coastal area management site plan revision to allow removal and replacement of trees and bushes that were storm damaged within 100 feet of critical coastal resources, section 273-91. Number 2, should I write continued as well?
Well, we'll announce
We'll do that. Yeah. Number 2, Shiano, Tony, and Gennaro, property located at 31 Lake Drive, map 114, lot 9-A1, zone R8, special permit to convert guest house into ice cream shop, section 273-245C, request to waive professionally prepared site plan. Number 3, Victor and Heather Anatra, property located at map 78, lot 16A and 16A1, zone R7/8, proposed zoning map amendment to change parcel from R7/8 zone to TS-2 zone, section 273-109. Item 4, McManus, Chris, property located at 342 Lower Water Street, map 27, lot 1, zone R6, coastal area management site plan revision to construct 1,378 square foot addition and rain garden within 100 feet of critical coastal resources, section 273-91. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the office of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Town Hall South, 50 Boston Street, Guilford, Connecticut. At this hearing, persons may attend and be heard, and written communications will be received. Dated at Guilford, Connecticut, this 28th day of March, 2013. Ray Bauer, Chairman.
Thanks very much, Walt. A couple of announcements. First of all, if you're here for the 111 West Lane LLC application, that's at 111 West Lane, the applicant has requested that that be continued to May 1st, so we will not be hearing that application tonight. If that's the only reason you're here, you don't have to stay if you don't want to. In addition, we have a couple of folks in here that need to leave a little bit early, so we're going to take this a little bit out of order. The first item is Imogene St. Paul. We have a letter from her regarding plantings between her property and the high school road course, walkway, and tennis courts to replace trees down during the hurricane tropical storms Irene and Sandy, as well as from heavy snowfalls this past winter.
Yes, I'm Imogene St. Paul, and 54 Long Hill Farm. And my property is right adjacent to the tennis courts. And back in December, I was at this meeting and you very kindly realized that I did have a problem because Reggie had gone and looked at the, and taken pictures and so forth, but it was tied to the high school building project. And so nothing was moving along. This was December that meeting was. So nothing was moving along. So in February, I wrote a letter and I didn't get any response from it. And I said, it's getting worse because we're having the snowstorm.
Who did you write the letter to?
Then I sent 2 other letters.
Well, who did you write them to?
Excuse me?
Who did you send the letters to?
Let me see. I sent the letter to George. What's his name?
Kroll?
Yes, Kroll.
Okay.
To Reggie. Sent copies to Scott, to Pinkney,
Okay, so you sent it to the school building committee.
And I sent it
Okay.
to the architects. I'd sent about 6 copies as well as to the person that I sent it to. And finally, the other day I got a phone call from Cliff Gurkham, is that his name?
Garnham.
Yeah, and he said, don't worry, we're going to clean up that area and we're going to plant some trees for you. So I was absolutely overwhelmed and pleased.
Good.
So can you tell me, is this going to really happen or was I dreaming it up?
Well, if he says it will, hopefully it will. We, at this point, until they come in with a site plan to actually construct that area, we don't have any jurisdiction over the matter, so hopefully they'll go forward and do that. And
he said they hired Family Tree was going to come in and consult.
Good.
And I told him about some of the size trees I planted on my side, and he was taking notes about that. So it looks like it might really happen.
Good. I'm very happy to hear that.
So I'm very happy about it. So thank you very, very much. And whoever it was that pushed this along, whoever it was, I got to send them a bunch of flowers or some candy or something.
Thank you, but we cannot accept gifts, so George might be able to, but
George, nice thing.
it's an appearance and impropriety.
I spoke to the chairman of the school building committee today, and he confirmed that what Mrs. St. Paul just said, that they did have the facilities person look at the property, and they're going to clean up the down trees and plant arborvitae. And she mentioned another species of trees. I can't remember. That's really, it's important to remember to keep separate. That's really separate from the school building project. You may recall that the school architects will submit a revision to the site plan to show the proposed rope course. You recall the discussion about that. And as part of that, they presumably and hopefully will include some additional landscaping. But that will be part and parcel of the school construction project, so it'll be quite a while, or it'll be several years before that's actually implemented, according to the building committee chairman. So in the meantime, they have agreed to take these other measures that were described.
Good. Well, it sounds like we've on the road to a resolution.
Thank you so much. No, they're in the spring. No, they come right away. He's going on vacation for 2 weeks, and once he comes back, he said they were going to do it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming, and good luck. I hope it works out.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item. That's right. Occasionally the system works. All right. Table 5 subcommittee report. Steve Copps. Steve, if you could just give us your update now. I don't want to keep you till the end of the meeting. This is relatively short. Just to remind the commission, we commissioned a subcommittee to take a look at the uses in Table 5, try to get it updated, and try to take a look at what we need to perhaps develop a longer-term plan. I believe it's Steve and Donette are the co-chairs of it, so we've asked Steve to come in and give us a brief report as to the status. Steve?
Well, the first thing that we did was look at the definitions that of the existing Table 5. Look for ways we could simplify them, ways that we could simply update the language, take out things that were obsolete. The second thing we did, and this is still ongoing really, is to look at what changes we recommend to the Table 5, but also have to be added or changed or updated in Section 273-2. We have asked for input from Dennis Johnson. Donette has met with Chairman of the Ag Commission, and Glenn Weston Murphy is going to be speaking to us. We're also going to be meeting with the Conservation Commission. So we're getting broad input. Where we stand right now is that we're about 3/4 of the way through all the definitions and what zones we think those things should be allowed in. The next step will be to sort of reverse that procedure, look at the zones, and look at what is in those zones now. So we estimate that we will be completed with that pretty soon. We think that we're actually going to get through the part that we're on by probably tomorrow at our meeting. And then we estimate completing our project, bringing it to the planning committee on June 18th.
Good. Okay, just for everybody's information, Table 5 is a list of permitted uses in non-residential zones. So these are generally the commercial zones, industrial zones, mixed-use zones. What this team is doing is they're taking a look at all the uses that are permitted today, updating the language, finding out should some of these uses still be allowed, should some of them not, should new uses be allowed, etc. And we have a good group of people from the community working with us to determine where we're headed at Guilford.
In your packet, you have the current one, the current Table 5, which the date's at the bottom.
It's February 1st,
And then the other one is updated through the last meeting.
4/17. Okay.
And I want to add one thing, which is that we recommend that Post Road West study be done.
Okay.
We want to be on the record of saying that.
We have funding for that, George? Or consultant? We'll take that. Anyways, any questions for Steve while he's here? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much. Appreciate the update and keep moving. Okay, let's go back to the public hearing agenda. The first item is Chris McManus. It's a property located at 342 Lower Water Street. It's the CAM site plan revision to construct a 1,378 square foot addition and a rain garden with 100 feet of coastal, critical coastal resource. We did do a site walk. David and I believe were there, and Walter. So we'll report on that later on after the applicant has made his presentation. Sir.
For the record, I'm Thomas A. Stevens. I'm a professional engineer and land surveyor. I'm here on behalf of Chris McManus, who is with me. My address is 141 Burnham Road in Madison.
Is that the same as this, or?
This is the same as what's up.
Okay,
Dark here.
let me use that one then.
Kind of a cruel text size to read, but the drawing can follow. The site walk I was unaware of. Typically, I would stake out proposed improvements. I would apologize for not.
That's okay.
We wandered around.
Yeah, you did get a heads up though that we're looking, trying to get an idea where the rain garden was. We saw the ledge on either
A
side.
little bird told me.
All right, good.
The ledge where you looked and said, I don't suppose the rain garden
Yeah,
is going there, but it's going between that and the tidal marsh.
Okay.
So we did probes to ascertain their soil.
Okay.
The addition is an easier understanding. It's continuation to the south of the existing house. Property is zoned R6. Dan and Mary Halley are the owners. Chris McManus, as I mentioned, is the builder. The lot is 65,370 square feet. This was a subdivision that was approved by this commission in 2004. Since the approval, we came back before the commission because the Historical Society wanted to maintain a small blacksmith cottage. So actually we went to Zoning Board of Appeals to get variances relative to that. We came back to the Planning and Zoning Commission to consolidate the curb cuts. We had two driveways off of 146. We made that one driveway. One of the conditions of approval is that we maintain the ledge outcrops either side of the driveway. If you were there Saturday, you saw that they respected the wishes of the commission. The addition, what I handed out to you is just a small scale version of what's on the easel. On the second page, in a larger font, it summarizes a small table on that handout. And basically, it's an addition of 1,378 square feet. 68 square feet of existing entryway is going to be taken away, and a total of 1,378 is to be added. The addition is an enclosed porch on the first floor, a living room on the first floor, an open porch on the first floor. The second floor is a conversion of a bedroom into a bathroom, and the area over the living room becomes the bedroom that was done away with. So there's no net increase in wastewater from the property. The utilities for the property are existing. Because we're adding roof coverage, there's a table at the top of the small handout. There's 1,407 square feet of roof being added to the existing house. So we've sized the rain garden as appropriate to take the first inch of rainfall and treat it. The rain garden being proposed versus subsurface gallery, just because the soil there is 30 inches deep, it's not deep enough to bury a structure. So we're going to do it on the surface with a rain garden. The area, as you saw, is lawn. It's going to be protected with silt fence. We anticipate putting a crawl space underneath the proposed addition. The living room area, perhaps under the porch also. We don't anticipate doing any blasting, both because of the coastal resource adjacency, and we've got the existing home we don't want to do. I've added on this plan a 25-foot coastal resource setback, which we're respecting with all our proposed construction. Down at the bottom of my
Okay.
page.
We have a few letters in the file from town officials. Before we go to questions, let me just read these into the record. The first one's from Dennis Johnson, Director of Health, dated April 17th. The applicant's proposed building additions will consist of adding a screen porch and living room on the first floor and replacing one bedroom on the second floor with a new bathroom and bedroom addition. The addition will not increase the bedroom count beyond the existing three-bedroom configuration. The proposed addition does not conflict with septic system setbacks or capacity requirements. In addition, we have a letter from John Goucher from the Connecticut DEEP, Office of Long Island Sound Programs. We have reviewed the above-referenced proposal for consistency with Connecticut Coastal Management Act policies and have no comments for the Planning and Zoning Commission's consideration. And finally, we have a letter dated today from Kevin McGee, the Town Environmental Planner, regarding the application. The applicant proposes to construct a 1,378-foot addition to the main house, which will include some site clearing and grading. The plan shows that the increase in impervious surface will be mitigated by the construction of a rain garden. In order to make sure that the coastal resources are protected, I recommend the following condition of approval. Orange construction fencing should be installed adjacent to the proposed silt fencing, and the Town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer should be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any demolition or site regrading. Soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and/or hay bales. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable materials installed to the satisfaction of zoning enforcement. You're okay with that as a condition if this was to be
Yes.
approved? Okay, questions from the commission? David?
Tell me more about the rain garden. That was the one thing that concerned me when we were on site looking at it. I was under the impression that there's a ledge here and a ledge waterward, and the rain garden was going to go between those two
correct.
ledges, not waterward of the last ledge drop, because that seemed like it dropped away pretty quickly.
No, this is ledge in the lawn. It's just upgrade. The ledge in the lawn is right here.
Right.
And then we're going in between that and the ledge exposed by the tidal well.
Okay. And are you filling it with some particular... A, it struck me as being between two ledge rock, which means there's probably not a lot of drainage, and B, to the extent there's drainage, it's going straight out to Long Island Sound.
Right. When I observed it, which was not immediately after rainfall, but in a moist condition. There was no apparent runoff on the waterward ledge. In other words, it wasn't short-circuiting over that ledge into the water. There's enough soil around that ledge that I feel will treat what's going in the rain garden.
You also did some, I'm sorry, some soil depth?
We did probes.
Probes
we
and
elected not to go in with a machine.
Right. Well, I mean, so you're satisfied for the design, there's enough soil there to absorb
Yes.
the design? Okay. Any other questions, David? Any? Sure, Walter.
The wastewater, you mentioned that there would be no net wastewater increase.
Correct.
I understand that seems unlikely. Could you just walk me through that briefly,
Right.
quantifying it?
What the health code does is if you increase the number of bedrooms in a house, then they'll increase the projected wastewater by 150 gallons per bedroom.
Okay.
If you increase bathrooms, they don't feel that bathrooms are going to increase population in the house, whereas bedrooms would. So the addition of a bathroom does not trigger anything from the health code point of view. The bedroom is being reconfigured into a larger bedroom, but they don't see that as ever being more than 2 people per bedroom. It's an average. Now, we grew up, different numbers and different bedrooms at different ages, but from the health code point of view, there's no increase in flow. So the existing system is sized properly.
So you were referring to the health code when you were mentioning the zero net.
Yes.
Right, Dennis Johnson was the Director of Health, and he usually moves on those. Any other questions from anybody else? Are there any questions from the public? Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone here wishing to speak against the application? Okay, one last opportunity for questions or comments. Okay, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, Tony and Gennaro Ciano. It's property located at 31 Lake Drive. This is a special permit to convert a guest house into an ice cream shop. We also have a request to waive a professionally prepared site plan, so just want to remind the commissioners of that. We'll take that up at the time of the deliberations. Please.
Good evening. My name is Patty McKenzie. My address is 711 Opening Hill Road in Madison. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Tony and Gennaro Ciano. I'm their daughter-in-law in the matter of converting the guest house into an ice cream parlor. I have some photos of said house and what kind of some of our plans are if we get the approval. This is the front view when you pull into the driveway of the guest house. This is where we would put a new entrance right here on the face of the house. These bushes, everything would then be converted and be handicap accessible with a nice sidewalk here. This is a view from the bottom, like from our sign. Again, this is a little bit small, but it's a faraway view of the guest house. This is the front face of this house, which would be the exit, where there will also be a ramp and handicap accessibility. A rear view, which could be an emergency exit, and additional parking. Again, another one from the driveway. This is basically this part of the house here, looking up our driveway there. I'm just going to put this down this way. This is a view from Hoople Road from a neighbor's house. So you can see, like, you can't even tell that the house is behind there. It's very private. Again, side view. Plenty of parking. This is behind. There's enough parking back here and asphalt to house about 20 different cars in different areas, as well as all the front parking. Being brought up in Guilford, I understand, preserving the importance of maintaining our agricultural background and, preserving our small town feel. And Tony and Jerry and our family are very passionate about keeping this feel on our farm as well as in our town. One of the things that would be very important to us is to not just open some impersonal store, but to really have a family-friendly farm destination in Guilford for families to come and enjoy an ice cream cone. We have llamas, we have peacocks and things that families already come just to see them, and all enjoy coming and hanging out. So this would be another destination for families to come and enjoy in an inexpensive manner, which in this economy right now, more families are looking for things that they can do all together. Tony and Jerry have both owned and ran successful food established businesses for over 40 years. One of the ones that they originally owned was Naples Pizza in Guilford. They then sold it to John Mozzarella, and they ran a pizza place in Middletown that their daughter now owns. So they know how to work the food industry and how to keep it clean and current. We do have plans as well to increase the parking, which is, I think, a concern of some people, but I don't think it needs to be. You can see this is the current guest house here. All around here, this is parking. There would be parking here. There's additional parking in front of here. Which all of this area in here is all asphalt area. So any increased parking, there's also another lot right up here. If this was bigger, you could see it. That's basically, I'm just gonna come a little closer. You can see right here where this gate is. We can take that gate out, and that's all asphalt area back there as well. This is the area that I'm referring to up here, if parking ever were an issue. Again, I mean, the only other thing that I really have to close with, I guess, is, you know, Guilford attracts so many families to their town for whether it be on the green or the Dudley Farm Market, anything like that. I feel like this, and we all feel like this would be another asset to bring families to Guilford, to have something very nice and homey and farm related and feel to our town.
Okay. Just before we get to the questions, we have some letters in the packet that was distributed. According to my count, there's 13 letters in favor and 4 letters against the application. So we'll open it up to questions from the commission. George, as far as parking, Reggie, no issues with number of parking spots, or it meets all of the zoning requirements?
So much parking there because they own so much property.
Okay.
How about the traffic in and out?
Well, that's not my purview. You'd have to ask the police chief about that.
Did this come before the staff meeting, George, at all, the town staff meeting, or the other departments discuss it? Or?
I don't think we did discuss this.
Okay.
Maybe we did, yeah.
I'm not quite correlating the drawn map here with the larger road map here. These, oh, sorry, go, you can look that one.
This is, okay,
So
right here.
we've got the road here, and then this is
our
right
driveway,
of way.
and this
Yeah.
is our driveway, and this is a right-of-way.
Would people
that
be
goes-
driving out of this right of way? This right of way is for cattle.
No, this right-of-way is a driveway to a house that's behind
Okay.
us.
Okay.
But we do own that, they own the right-of-way.
But you can drive on it also?
Yes, it's
So you
gravel
have-
driveway, yes.
Okay. So now this gravel driveway, where does it show up? Here,
It would be right here.
right here. Okay.
Where
And
this
the
yellow
ice cream
line is.
shop would be in this largest
No,
building?
right here.
This guy. Okay. I've got it. Thank you very much.
All right, any other? Kim?
Can you just clarify, the letter that you submitted says that it's to-go only? But you have some tables shown, so just to be clear what you're asking for.
Basically, being in the food industry, Tony and Jerry understand that it's important for the public to see where the food comes from. They want people to be able to come in and order their ice cream, but not to have a restaurant feel. They don't want it to be a sit-down place. There's a couple tables, you always have people either waiting or, you know, kids, and you got things, you know, that people want to kind of reorganize or whatever. But the goal is to have it set up that there's like a stand-up area here, like just for people to kind of, if they have bags or whatever, to get organized, to come through in order, and then to continue out and exit. And we will have benches set up out, this is outside, benches outside, as well as, this is also outside here. And around here, what we'd like to do is in front of here is have like a stone wall or something that, you know, everybody can kind of sit on and have like a nice ledge, because right here is actually the animal pens, which is what people are probably going to do. They're going to get their ice cream and go and take a peek at the animals with their kids. So, you know, even though you can come in and order your ice cream, we'll have a rest room, things like that that people can use. We don't want to have a bunch of tables and things inside to house a ton of people sitting around in there. So that's what we mean. We want to take it out. We want everybody to kind of take it outside.
So the benches you're showing are on the outside, not the inside?
Yes. The blue there is the windows on the building here. So
Okay.
then outside, I mean, these should probably just be a little bit bigger across the front of the building. No, you can kind of see like where the parking spaces are here. It would be right along that. There would be a sidewalk. You know, we'd probably have some kind of a railing to make sure kids were safe and not just right in the parking lot there.
Is there, I noticed there's in between the garage and the back, it looks like the back of the ice cream stand, you have 3 tables drawn in. On one of the maps we have, I don't know if it's on yours.
No, I think he's talking about up here.
Yeah, something right up here.
Yeah,
So basically my point, anything outside, is there going to be additional lighting, music? I've been there before, but it's been a while.
Well, we'd like for our hours to be fairly limited because we are where we are. We want to be respectful to, you know, any neighbors that we have. We don't want a bunch of people out there late at night. So really, I mean, yes, we would have some outdoor lighting to make it as safe as possible for people to be around, but you know, wanting to close probably no later than around 9. You know, even right now, we would only need fairly limited outdoor lighting, being a seasonal operation as well. So,
George, you were going to say something?
I just wanted to clarify the zoning rules pursuant to this and the nature of this particular application related to the zoning rules. This is a farm. You're allowed to have a sale of farm products associated with a farm, which they have. You're also allowed to have non-farm products for sale by special permit when it's part of, incidental to, or accessory to the sale of farm products that are grown on the farm. That's what this is, application is pursuant to that. And you're not normally allowed to have a retail store or restaurant in a residential zone, obviously. So this falls under the special permit, accessory to the farm market.
Okay, thank you, George, for clarifying that. Questions from the public? Ma'am.
Operating hours.
Oh, please, could you give your name and address?
My name is Oti Putkonen, and I live next door at 1605 Bluebell Road, and I can see that one of these pictures has been taken off our yard without us knowing it. So that's kind of a surprise, actually.
these pictures are
From Haggerty's.
from Haggerty.
Your question was the operating hours?
The operating hours.
Our proposed hours that we're thinking about would be 11:30 to 9.
Proposed.
Yes.
And the actual?
Hopefully 11:30 to 9.
Let me ask you this. If we were to approve the application,
Yes.
would you have a problem with us putting a condition in it to say that the hours, that this is allowed from 11:30 to 9?
No, we would have no problem with that.
All right, next question?
Yeah, if anything, we would be closing a little early
Okay,
rather than late. 'Cause we really want the family environment. We don't want
okay.
it to be.
Ma'am, please, one.
How is the traffic will be directed in and out of the lot?
Well, in general, most people will probably come in park here and probably then pursue out this way. They can also leave that way. If it does become an issue, we'll probably have to paint some arrows on the road and make sure that we're not having any conflicts there. As it stands right now, this is plenty wide enough for 2 cars to pass. So worst case scenario, like I said, we'll just have to paint some lines to make sure that everyone's as safe as possible and following whatever etiquette, needs to be followed during those times.
Thank you. Sir?
My name's Chris Kemp. I live on Lake Drive on the north end of 85. I was just curious, what's the square footage of the building that you're going to put the new establishment?
1,240 .68 square feet. We're proposing only the bottom floor. The top floor is not. We will have the stairs are going to be closed off. That's our purposes only for our storage.
Yes.
Whatever we want to use. It won't be open to the public at all upstairs.
Just so I'm kind of clarifying the direction of my questions, I'm envisioning a situation with 20 parking spaces, 1,000 square foot retail space that's going to have a draw during the hours of business that would be similar to what you see at a Durham Dairy Serve, which is actually smaller, or in Ashley's, a couple examples that are local. You clearly have parking and space for their cars. As an owner that's somewhat local, about a mile and a half away, I'm a little concerned about that kind of volume of vehicles coming through. And I know that they're not all going to be coming down Lake Drive, potentially all coming up Loophole, but they are residential roads, and there's joggers, bikers, kids. I have a 7-year-old. And, the 2 establishments that I just previously mentioned are pretty busy during the summertime. So do you have a proposal for how you're going to kind of...
Well, again, it kind of goes with what I'm allowed to do. I would love to, at that end of the lake, maybe have a sign with an ice cream cone pointing 77, so people don't come down Lake Drive. Because I don't want, obviously, wanting to be a family-oriented place, I don't want any families to be in jeopardy, and neither do, my in-laws for sure. But again, that's something I would have to go through the town and get permission to put that sign there to encourage traffic to go that way.
My feeling is I would like to see a site plan done. I know that that's something that you would like to have waived, but as an owner on the street, I think putting that type of a retail establishment, we can have that kind of draw with no site plan seems a little risky.
All right. Any other questions from the public? Okay, is there anybody here? Oh, please, go ahead.
Peggy Smith, House 85 Lake Drive. I guess my question is, how many uses can a residential property have? We have a special permit for a food store. We obviously live there as a primary residence. And now we need another special permit to have an ice cream shop. Where does it stop? And how many uses in a quadrangle at the end of Lake Drive?
What's your question? I'm sorry, this is a type of question.
Okay.
How many uses?
How many uses can a property have?
We just should stop there. Okay. George, how many uses are permitted under the code?
I don't think there's any limit specifically on the number of uses.
I don't think there's the reason I suspect that's the case is some properties more may be appropriate, other properties less may be appropriate. It's a judgment call based on what we hear and what the applicant's proposing, I suppose. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask, is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of the application?
No, not in favor.
Okay, all right, sir, we'll start with you.
Do you want this right here? I'll just say from here.
If you could come up, it's just so we can get you on the camera. If we could just come up around here, state your name and address, and then please make your statement for the application.
My name is Colin Andrews. I'm here also on behalf of my wife, Dr. Cynthia Andrews, 111 Great Hill Road, North Guildford. And I'm here to support the application by a local hard-working family business who have a proven record of meticulous maintenance of their buildings and who have provided some essential local services. The application, as far as we can perceive it, further supports small country enterprise and actually helps enrich the community in which we live. Our only fear is that my wife and I and our family will be regular visitors to the ice cream store. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Anyone else wishing to speak? Sir, please come up and make your statement.
Yeah, I'm Mike Stebbins. I live directly across the street on Durham Road from the establishment. I've been there for about 16 years. I don't find any problem with having that ice cream business. I actually welcome it. They've been a very good family-oriented business. I trust them in taking care of traffic. I trust them in taking care of any problems that may occur with the establishment. They've done it in the past. I really don't see a problem with having a little bright spot of ice cream parlor in a place that gets used heavily by the beach. And I think the bikers will welcome it. I think a lot of people will welcome it. And like I said, I stare at this establishment all day. My kids have been going there since they were this high, and they enjoy it very much. I think it's just another added bonus to having that nice piece of property to have over there. It's a nice little place to give. Like I said, I think they'll handle the traffic and everything properly. And you have a very good police presence over there and everything else that will, I don't think will let anything get carried away. So,
all right. Thank you for your input. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the application? Please. Okay, you'll be next, ma'am. Okay.
I'm Julia Chamberlain. I live at 592 Route 80 in North Guilford. I'm 17 and looking for jobs as a 17-year-old. It's difficult for me to get to North Guilford all the way to the center of town where there's a lot of businesses, or to another town. And having another place to work closer to home would be beneficial to people my age, and it would be better for me as a driver, because then I wouldn't have to be spending so much on gas money going farther and farther away to just get a job.
Thank you for your input. Yes, please, ma'am.
My name is Jill Russo. I live at 605 Lake Drive. I have known the Sciano family for over 20 years. The gentleman that spoke earlier so eloquently about how they've run their businesses in the past, he did it. I'll just repeat I'd like to repeat what he said. There's great enthusiasm in my family from my children that they can ride their bikes there, something that you really can't do anywhere else in North Guilford because uptown is way too far. So it's a safe ride, and I don't want to take too much time, but just that however the Scianos have worked things with their pizza business, with the feed store, it has always been done top-notch, and I think they'll cover all the bases and cross their T's and dot their I's, and it will be very well done.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of the application? Ma'am, why don't you go first, and then sir, you can follow her.
My name is Doris Scopper, and I live on 132 Race Hill Road, and I've known Tony since high school. And they have a great operation up there, and I'm really looking forward to having an ice cream place there so I can bring my grandchildren. And we can ride our bikes there too, and I think it'll be a great addition, and a great addition for the town as an agricultural community to keep a farm up and running, and everything else everyone else said.
Thank you very much. Sir, I think you wanted to speak in favor.
Hi, I'm Matthew Schilling at 351 Great Hill Road, and I'm in favor of this. I've known the Sciano family for ever, 30 years plus. My daughter's in the 4-H group there. As a little kid, I don't know if anybody remembers Greenbackers over in Wallingford, a family-run ice cream parlor there that had animals, and it's kind of disappeared from a lot of communities, and I think this would be real beneficial to get a family atmosphere where kids can come out and see the animals, have an ice cream. They maintain their businesses, their property. It's immaculate. involved with numerous functions of theirs. Basically ditto to everything the gentleman, this nice lady said.
All right, thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in favor? Sir? Oh, ma'am, I'm sorry. Back there.
I'm Casey Schilling. I live at 351 Great Hill Road in North Guilford, and I'm in favor of this because hopefully I could get a job there because it's nice and close to home, and I'll soon be driving, and it'll be a lot nicer to just have somewhere close by to go to work instead of, like Julia said, going downtown or to another town and wasting a lot of gas. And being 16, it would be a nice place for all my friends that I grew up with in North Guilford to like have somewhere to go and hang out and get ice cream and something like close and local, like opposed to going to Brantford to go to a movie or something that would be far away. So.
Okay, thank you for your input. Would anyone else like to speak in favor? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask, is there anyone who would like to speak against the application? Ma'am, please.
Yes. So I'm Ota Putkon, and I live next door at 1605 Football Road. And I'm listening to all these comments, and I hear them. I hear them very well. But as a next door neighbor, first of all, my concern is that there are so many existing businesses already at the property. There are all these different functions at different times of the year that bring volumes and volumes of cars into our plain view. This is what we will be looking at, is a parking lot. What will that do to our property value is a very, very main concern here. They're already on a special permit. This is yet another special permit. These are hand-drawn plans. There's no real traffic flow study. There's no real parking issue study. There's no real... The offset intersection at Lakeside Drive and Football Road is a very dangerous intersection as it is. There are many, many, many joggers, little kids, big kids, adults, old people, dogs. I can just see what happens in that intersection once these cars will start rumbling through. There are convoys of motorcycles that will be parking in the backyard, rumbling their engines at all hours, possibly. Music, people running around, trash, litter, napkins running around. I would probably have to hire a raker to rake my backyard from the empty napkins. And especially at times that the outdoors are enjoyable to us, which is weekends and evenings, we would have people at our plain view running around, parking their cars, playing music, etc., etc. And then last but not least, I think that we are all aware of that ice cream is not always the only thing, especially to teens, that get sold at ice cream stores. They sometimes become a source to buy other illicit things. And that's really not something that I would like to have next door to me.
Okay. Is there any?
And we're adamantly against this application.
Okay, you'll get a chance for rebuttal at the end. Okay, thank you. Anyone else liking to speak against? Ma'am, please.
Heidi Smith, Christopher Kent, 885 Lake Drive. We have some serious concerns about A, the number of uses of the property. 2, does it really fit in the nature of the ruralness of North Guilford, and most important, the traffic. I have the luxury of working from home. I watch the traffic come down. The delivery trucks come down Lake Drive. They do not take 77. We walk Lake Drive every day. We have called numerous times about the speed of the drivers on Lake Drive. The number of traffic that's going to increase is going to be 20 times worse than it is now. You can't walk Lake Drive with a child today. You can't ride a bike on Lake Drive with a child today because the cars go too quickly. You walk single filed to walk to the end and come back. In addition, you have the triangle at the end of the street in front of where this is, which is a disaster. People don't know that the traffic from Hoop Hole doesn't have to stop. It's a very obscure network of a lot of cars to have to come in and out of that area. And unless there is some sort of a traffic study that's going to take this residential road and 77, which is a scenic road deemed by the state, I have real grave concerns for the area.
All right, thank you for your input. Anyone else wishing to speak against the application? Okay, any questions from the commission?
Yeah, I have a question.
And then we'll go to rebuttal.
We heard about the traffic. Now, is the traffic, is it heavy because of the fact of your establishment, or because of the fact that just the road is heavily traveled? In other words, if you weren't there, what?
I mean, we keep track of our customers, how many we do per day, and we do have events there, but they are at the most, I want to say 6 per year, and that would be a lot. We have one major one in the spring, a big open house that families come. We do Easter Bunny, we do Easter egg hunt, and that is a big one. Then we have a couple that are much smaller than that throughout the year. As far as how many customers are contributing to the traffic going up and down, I want to say on an average day in the actual store, not people calling in to put orders in for us to deliver, there's probably between 35 and 50 customers per day. I mean, I don't think that that's a huge increase, and I could probably say more than half of them are coming off of 77 or up Hoop Hole, not down Lake Drive.
Have you received complaints from the neighbors directly?
We got, I want to say, one complaint about our delivery truck on Hoop Hole. So we no longer drive down Hoop Hole, and our delivery truck does not go down Lake Drive. Our tractor trailers that come in, we specifically tell them to take 77. And they actually cannot make the turn onto Lake Drive from our driveway. So they can't go out that way. They have to come in because they're so long, they need that intersection to get up to our driveway. The only other one would be we always have to tell them not to turn around at the firehouse because the wires are a little low. But other than that, we have not had complaints, to us directly that I know of.
Yes. Now, you do realize that this would increase the volume by exponential. It is not 35 customers a day. And as of now, as a next door neighbor, we witness the traffic in and out of the store all day long. And it's tolerable, but it's a nuisance. And those events are absolute nightmare. How long have you lived here? 16 years.
The question that I thought, Peter, I thought your question was going to be, because I thought it would have been more relevant to the applications. How many customers are you anticipating with this new use? Are these only people who come to the feed store and buy ice cream, or do you anticipate other people?
I anticipate other people coming, especially with the lake traffic. People swimming down at the lake, families being down at the lake, I'm assuming, hoping that they would come down and have an ice cream. I don't have a guesstimate number. That's something we could work on.
Well, I mean, that's kind of something to have a...
How do you measure it? How do you measure the success of the business?
The usual way is that you have experts, traffic engineers, who can calculate traffic based on experience with similar types of premises and stores. So the typical way of doing this would be to hire a traffic engineer. They would evaluate the specific business, the size, and project the traffic on that basis, and then evaluate the impact of the traffic on the particular situation in terms of turning movements and congestion and the other public safety things that they are concerned with. Another kind of shorthand way of doing that is to have the police chief evaluate the application. We did discuss this at one of our staff meetings, but I'm almost certain that the police chief was not at that meeting. that's another way of doing what you were asking without requiring a full-blown traffic study.
That's one of the things I was trying to get a handle on. If I remember correctly, I actually had to draw in additional lines. This intersection is kind of an X intersection in the sense that Hoop Pole Road comes down and either does or doesn't have a stop sign. Lake Road goes off to the right, and then there are, if you go to the left, there are two options that get you to 77, some of which may and some of which may not have stop signs on them. One of the things in a special permit we need to make sure is that the streets are adequate to carry prospective traffic and provision is made for entering and leaving. And I'm not comfortable with the cocktail napkin drawing that we have right now that we've addressed both entering and exiting this particular facility, particularly since that's coming in at the middle of this intersection. I don't know where the stop signs are for sure. And then just in terms of the volume, I mean, if you go up to Durham Ice Cream, they do land off as business. And that's not a bad thing. I think it would be actually kind of nice to have an ice cream shop there. I'm not comfortable right now with this drawing saying, yes, that'll probably be okay until we find out that the police are there every Saturday night or Friday night trying to direct the 5 different roads that come to this site.
Do you have any response?
I actually have a question before you talk. There used to be a stop sign there. It was taken away at either a car accident or by a snowplow years ago. It was never put back. And the town has just lived without that stop sign at the bottom of Hoop Pole Road. That's why traffic is built up.
Maybe you should.
Maybe most of the people got used to the stop sign not being there anymore, and they blow through.
Okay, thank you. Maybe George, you should let the police chief know about that tomorrow.
Yeah. What I was trying to say before was,
thank you.
I guess there are kind of 2 ways of proceeding with regard to this, getting more analysis of this question. One is to ask the applicant to evaluate it with their own resources and hire a traffic engineer. Another is to ask the police chief to review the application and make a report to the commission or make a recommendation to the commission.
That may come up all in part of discussion. But I still have a couple of...
We just want to make a point. I mean, we've actually, knocking on wood, we have not had accidents in that intersection or in our business. There hasn't been.
But
and I understand the increase in volume could change that.
Right.
And
that's
I just
the
want
question.
to, I just want to make sure that it's known that there hasn't been an issue there from our store at all.
In discussion, people have talked about garbage. Again, our very informal site plan doesn't have any provision made for trash receptacles or I think you mentioned if you're talking about hours until 9 o'clock, did you explain what you meant by seasonal? What months of the year?
Mid-March, March to September.
To September. So that by 9 o'clock, that's going to be dark.
Right. We will have some lighting. Yes, we'll have some lighting.
Well, it's the same lighting that we are living.
Yeah, there's lights outside now.
Which is, but if you're going to be adding light, one of the things that we're always concerned about is that lighting, is it going to affect others, is it going to shine off site? And one of the ways we make sure about that is we have a site plan that shows us where the lighting is and the height of the lighting. And again, I feel like we've got a very informal proposal in front of us, and I'm not comfortable saying, oh, I'm sure the light's going to be fine since it's not shown on the plans.
Well, are you going to add lighting?
Well, there's lighting on the building now, but what's in between, which is the guest house now and the neighbor, are huge tree line. You can't even see it anyways. This whole fence line is all just huge trees that the neighbor has put in.
Can I comment? I live behind those trees, and when those lights are on, our yard is lit.
What lights are those?
The lights that you have at the end of your guest house, at the end of the barn. When you have those bright lights on, it is very disturbing to us.
And you live right behind those trees that are depicted in that?
That is correct.
Is that particular tree line?
The I thought there was some mention made about how to encourage traffic to come to or from 77. Is there going to be an off-site sign somewhere?
Well,
Is that depicted?
That would be, I mean, I know that's a separate issue, but I
I
would
think
have
the
a problem.
applicant said they would like to do that, but whether they would need permission from the town, or I don't know who has jurisdiction over letting it go.
If it's on Route 77, it would have to be the
state.
Right, I mean, and that's a whole.
So I guess there's no guarantee that
Yeah.
that could happen. At least with what's before us now, we don't have any proof that that can be done. All right, any other questions from the commission? Or any?
I do have a question. It just seems like there's a discrepancy between the tree line. You're saying that the trees are a complete buffer with the neighbors, but then the woman on the other side is saying there's not, so. I'm
In your
just
yard,
thinking
there's
maybe
huge
see
trees,
this.
they have a fence line, and then there's huge trees. I mean, from us, we can't even see their house from that point.
I mean, what's the rough distance between their property line?
I mean, from here,
20 feet.
I think it's more than 20 feet, but from the guest house,
Yeah.
I would say it's closer to 60.
Okay, so from where the lights are to where the property line is, behind those trees, it's
The
60.
property line, I'm trying to think too. From the
Is the
side
tree
of the
line,
guest
is
house
the tree line, is the,
to that, yeah, I mean, maybe 50 feet. I mean, I want to say it's from where the lights are to that, yeah. And
All right.
then they have space before their house as well.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay, any other comments you'd like to make?
The only thing I'd like to say, as far as teenagers and stuff getting involved, Tony knows when a bale of hay falls down out of the loft when she's back in the back corner of our lot. She runs everything so top-notch and so tight. I don't think any teenager would dare do anything bad on our property like that. So my concern as far as having teenagers and things there, I think they would be more terrified of Tony than of anything else.
Okay.
Because she's going to make it family-oriented and safe for our neighborhoods and our kids. She would never, ever allow anything like that to happen.
I just want to clarify one thing. If I'm looking at this map here, is this where the proposed,
Yes.
this one
The
right here?
small, yes,
Little
the
tiny
small
thing.
house right there.
This is where you're saying all these trees are?
No,
whole-
this is,
Yellow, this yellow is where all of those trees are, right here, and this is their house here.
okay.
All right.
And this is, this is, you
This is
mentioned
the
that this is.
a proposed interior, we're, you know, we're
With
obviously a little
I was looking at
early.
just at the floor space. We got the 960 is the bottom floor and 280 is the top floor. Is that approximately? The top floor is much smaller.
Well, wait a minute.
Wait,
a
hold on
minute.
one second.
Hold on.
We're
You'll
just
get your
trying to figure
chance.
out
We're trying to figure out
top-
the square footage of what the
We got
top
12.
is versus
yeah, I
the
think
bottom.
the whole
So upstairs
total
and down
is 1240, upstairs and
So
down.
really the bottom's a little less than 1,000.
Okay, so the bottom is 40 by 24, which is 960,
Yeah,
and then
and
the
the
rest
top
of
is not
this
included
is
in
the top.
anything. Yeah, sorry.
And you're going to be
Upstairs,
storing things.
yes.
Yeah, it's
that's
just
for
storage.
our-
It's
our
like,
use.
the whole middle is all empty, and there's a balcony, two bedrooms,
I
but
guess.
we wouldn't do
Okay.
anything.
I think I know which.
All right.
The loft area.
Ma'am, you wanted to make one more
Right, so
comment.
the tree line only covers the proposed parking area partially. It doesn't go all the way up to where they have it marked that the parking area would be allowed to go up to. And that would really be not a nice site for us.
Okay.
I mean,
All right, I'm going to close the public hearing on this, and we will
Mr.
move
Chairman,
on to
if
the
you're, if you're inclined to request more information from the applicant,
Well, yeah, I think-
maybe you wouldn't want to close the public hearing.
Well,
Can we reopen?
we
it
can
if we have to
reopen
when we
it,
get
I
to
think,
discussion?
George,
you have your
at the
discussion.
time we deliberate, okay?
Okay.
Because
Okay,
I think we have some deliberation to do on it first, to see where we come out.
okay.
Okay, thank you. Next item, Victor and Heather Natra. Bob, I can't sit on this one, I have a conflict, so I'm off. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're okay with that, you can go ahead? Okay. So I am going to recuse myself.
Vice Chair Golitz is in charge.
Acting Vice Chair Golitz is going to run this hearing.
Go get it.
Okay, so basically, the next item on the agenda is Victor and Heather Anatra, property located at map 78, lot 16A and 16A1, zone R7/8, proposed zoning map amendment to change parcel from R7/8 zone to TS2 zone. So, Mr. Robert Mangino, please go forward with your presentation.
Yeah, for the record, my name is Robert Mangino. I'm an architect at office in Dover, Connecticut. I'm representing the owner in regards to a rezone change. This existing property is a TS2 zone shown on the map here. There's a couple parcels in the middle, and then there's a large range of TS2 zones. Refresh your memory, this is basically a Gatehouse West project. So this is the Boston Post Road, and this is the property along this side that we want to rezone to the continuation of the TS2 zone. This particular parcel, this rear parcel, are R7, R8, we want to rezone it to TS2. We presented a site plan which how we intend to use this should we get a zone change. So you get a sense of what we're doing in the TS2 zone and why it's a good fit and a good extension of the existing TS2 zone which Gatehouse West has. We have approved before this board years ago 6 townhouses in the rear of the property. This being Boston Post Road, Gatehouse West. I'm showing this in this terms here.
Rear of which property?
This is Gatehouse West property. Show you here. This is the rear of Gatehouse West. We have approval from Claims Earth Commission to construct 6 townhouses in the rear of the property.
This is lot 20A, zoning.
This is the existing one.
I'm just trying to understand what you're asking.
Yeah,
I'm completely confused right now.
I'm showing you the basics of what we have now.
That's what I'm telling you. I'm confused. You're trying to give me the basics, and I am very confused.
This is the existing Gatehouse West property, which is an existing...
Where's the post road?
Right here.
Okay.
This is the building here.
Yep.
Okay, here's the Boston Post Road.
Okay.
Okay, right across here.
Yep.
This is the existing TS2 zone, which is this property here.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We can't say.
Oh, okay.
Would you mind standing on the other side so they and we also...
Try with your right hand.
Fine.
Thank you.
This is the existing Gatehouse West site.
Okay.
We're asking for a rezone of a piece of property which is adjacent to the Gatehouse West property.
Which is currently R8.
R8. And a rear piece of property that's also R8.
R8.
Correct.
Okay. That parcel is 20, the parcel to the, I'm going to call it south.
This is 16A1, and this is parcel 16A.
All right.
Okay. And
20A is...
This is the existing parcel.
Okay.
What we're showing is when we received approval and our design on this particular property, it was basically for a 6-unit townhouse in this area here.
Okay.
Since we received, my client received a contract to purchase the adjacent pieces, we reviewed the site and decided single-family dwellings in this existing area where we had townhouses would be a much better fit for the use of the property and the saleability, because 55 and older, 1.5-story houses fit the site better. So we basically took our concept in here, and when we went for the rezone now, we decided to show you how the site would work as a TS2 zone should these 2 pieces of property be rezoned.
But you're showing me residential development.
Correct.
Why do you need TS2 to do that as opposed
Because
to...
the RA, because it seems as a logical extension of the TS2, which is here, TS2 here. These basically 3 lots were not included. So it seemed a normal extension of the TS2 zone that would allow us to continue this development here into this piece of property here.
But you're not, that's not in front of us at all.
No,
All you want
was the zone change for these two pieces.
to make it a TS2.
Two.
And TS2 has how many uses that are not residential?
Has a mixed use.
Okay.
But what we're presenting to you is our specific use should we get the TS2 zone.
But you're under no requirement.
Oh, correct, oh yes, correct.
Okay.
But we
so-
wanted to inform the public, inform the commission, the only sensible use, should we get the TS2 zone, was to continue this residential use in the rear of the existing property and extend it over into the two new rezoned properties. So we have a consistent use of TS2 zone, which is a consistent TS2 zone along the Boston Post Road. So we figured we'd simply ask for an extension of the TS2 zone, which will allow us to continue this development through the new parcels. Should we get the zone change, then we have to go before, as you know, planning and zoning, wetlands commission, design review, etc., that would allow us to construct the specific number of units subject to Dennis Dawson's review, site engineering, site drainage, but we cannot proceed until we are able to get a TS2 zone for these two particular properties. We thought it would be a logical extension of the fact that this was TS2 here, and then there was like these three lots that weren't included. We have this large strip of TS2 zone on both sides of Boston Post Road. We simply say this is the logical extension rather than saying let's put another zone to it. The TS2 zone made sense.
Do we have any comments from the...
Before we get into that, let me try to clarify for the commission the existing zoning situation, because I know it's very confusing out there. And as a matter of fact, it's made even more confusing by the virtue of the fact that that small-scale zoning map that you have in the book, the printed one, is not correct.
Oh.
But let me...
wait, our zoning map is not correct?
Yes, with respect to the parcel that's already developed as Gatehouse West. However, I'd like to call your attention to this map, which I prepared, which does show the correct zoning today, as well as the two parcels that are proposed by Anatra to be rezoned. And let me also outline a couple of the landmark properties out there so you can orient yourself a little bit, because I know it's very confusing. The area that's shown in the shaded pink color is currently a TS2 zone. Just for purposes of orienting yourself, the most westerly parcel, the one that's identified as 2548 on this map, the address 2548 Boston Post Road, that's the Maritime Grill restaurant, if you can place where that is in your mind.
Wait, what number here?
The address 2548, it's on the south side of Boston Post Road.
Yep.
It's the most westerly.
That's Maritime.
That's Maritime Grill.
Got it.
And across the street there, the 2549, that's the most westerly TS zone property on the north side, and that's the business known as West End Auto Center. It's a auto repair and auto parts sales business. On the south side of the road, there are three front lots that are currently zoned residential. Actually, the front portion of those lots is zoned R7, and the rear portion is zoned R8. There's a small lot 2556, and there's another residential lot 2558, and then there's 2560. 2560 is one of the parcels that's being proposed to be rezoned as part of this application. And then in the rear, there's another lot known as 2590, which is also part of the petition that Bob just explained. The sites shown in yellow are the existing Gatehouse West properties, zone TS2. That property is partially developed, as Bob showed you, and there's also an approved plan for townhouse development on the south side of that parcel, which Bob also just mentioned. And then this property abuts in the rear part, the area that's colored purple here, which is in the CD zone. That's actually the parcel that's currently residential in use. At one time, it was a golf driving range. And then there are two parcels also zoned that are in the residential zone. That would be the R7, those parcels known as 21 and 22. And then all of the white area on this map is residentially zoned. So maybe that helps you orient yourself as to where you are out there. But it's an eclectic.
Bit of a patchwork.
Yes.
Yes.
Could I just to clarify, up on the road next to the Maritime Road, there are two houses?
Here?
Yeah, those are not part of this.
2556 is not part of this, no.
Okay. They would stay residential then?
That would continue. And 2558 is not part of this petition either.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You know, before we go to the public, let me read into the record these two letters that we got. One of them is from Kevin McGee, the environmental planner, and it's dated April 16th. And it says the proposed zoning amendment to change the zoning of the parcel located on Assessors Map 78, Lots 6A and 6A1 to TS-2 zone would add uses to the properties that could pose significant threat to the adjacent Wolf Swamp. This area of wetlands is noted in the Island Wetlands and Water Courses Regulation as major inland wetlands and water course. The Town of Guilford Natural Resources Inventory and Assessment published January 2005 noted that this area of wetlands, which abuts the southwestern corner of the property, has significant wetlands, recognizing the importance of the wetland complex. The Natural Resource Inventory recommended that an intact 300-foot upland buffer around the significant wetlands. The current RA zoning lot adjacent to the wetlands complex helps to provide this buffer from the intense development. The adjacent TS2 zone is also buffered from the wetlands by R8 zoning. The problem with the zone change is not the proposed use shown at zone change map, but several of the allowed uses in TS2 zone, which would affect the adjacent wetlands. The uses that I see in conflict to the significant wetlands are 11, motor vehicle repair, 14, manufacturing, compounding, processing, packaging, or treatment of foods, ice, beverages, candy, cosmetics, pharmaceuticals and drugs, or pottery and ceramic products, and assemble treatment and finishing of articles made of previously prepared materials such as wood, metal, fiber, plastics, and the like. 17, motor vehicle filling stations. 27, research laboratories. The proposed zone change is not in keeping with the plan of conservation and development, which notes that the goal of Route 1 West is to encourage appropriate development that is sensitive to the existing residential areas and to local environment and maintains the general character of the region. The proposed uses noted above in the TS2 zone are not sensitive to the environment and are potential to harm the adjacent wetlands. The proposed zoning change should be denied without prejudice. The Planning Committee, which is currently reviewing zoning use, should evaluate the zoning of the properties adjacent to Wolf Swamp and develop zone type that does not include the uses noted above. We also have...
Mr. Chairman, let me clarify one thing on that from Kevin's memo with respect to motor vehicle repair and also motor vehicle filling stations. While those uses are permitted in TS2, there's also a limitation on the number of them. If you look at your zoning regulations under TS2, motor vehicle repair facilities, there's a limit of 3 such facilities in the TS2 zone. That limit has already been reached, so there are already at least 3 motor vehicle repair facilities. So there can't be any more in the TS2 zone unless one of those existing ones goes away. Right. Similarly with motor vehicle filling stations, what we now usually refer to as retail sale of motor vehicle fuel. Only 1 such facility is permitted in that zone, and that's already been achieved. So similarly, there can't be any more unless that one's eliminated. Just to clarify that point.
And the other letter that we received is from Guilford Land Conservation Trust, and that's dated April 12th. It says, "Dear Commissioners, first let me say thank you for your service and concern for our towns. The Guilford Lands Conservation Trust is a volunteer-run nonprofit organization that has protected 3,000 acres of open space in Guilford. We have 1,500 members. Among our highest priorities is the conservation and stewardship of a continuous natural resources. GLCT has a large commitment to the Wolf Swamp, the Toner Swamp, the Hoadley Creek wetland system because of its important role as a health ecosystem and its role as drainage system from Long Island Sound, including some marshes at its outlets to the Sound. We own approximately 400 acres in this compact drainage basin. The town of Guilford lists this area as significant natural resource area in the natural resource inventory. The Land Trust has always recognized the need for zones allowing intense development along Route 1 and elsewhere, but we argue that those zones should be honored and not expanded towards fragile ecosystems simply because adding an adjacent residential property and changing its zone would allow for convenient extension of one's business venture. GLCT has only come before this commission one other time regarding a zoning issue in the lease. It must be the last 8 years. The time the issue was the same as is today, a proposed zone change towards more intensity that would have put pressure on the adjacent healthy but fragile ecosystem. GLCT opposes the current proposed zone change and a long list of intensive uses that would be permitted in TSZ zone. Thank you for your consideration and our position. Sarah Williams, President. We also have some letters, and I don't know if Charlie and Christine Healy are here. Yes. Okay. And any comments from the public at this time?
Well, we should get some questions from the public.
Yep, questions from the public.
The R8. What's your name? Oh, sorry, Lisa Hook, 2498 Boston. As the zoning currently exists, does it permit this type of development, the townhouse?
The current zoning would permit residential use.
Is congested or no?
The R7 and R8 zones are residential zones, but they have very large lot size minimums. So while residential use would be permitted, not at the density that Mr. Mangino is showing us here on these plans. Much lower density. R8 is a 4-acre minimum lot size. R7 is a 2-acre minimum lot size.
Any other questions from the public? Yes.
Steve Mordecai, 5 Katy Lane, the subdivision right behind the property we're talking about. You talked about changing it to proposing a 55 and older community. However, in TS2 zone, there's no guarantee you're going to do that. And once the zone gets changed, what's the likelihood of it getting changed back if they decided to change their mind on what they want to put there?
One of the things, as you know, should we get the zone for TS2 zone? And that's why we want to show you why we're doing what we're doing. Just a quick issue. There was, again, this is a TS2 zone, went all the way back there. We went ahead and developed, and there is in place a water retention system to protect the ecosystem. It's obvious we're going to do the same thing in this particular property. We have to. So we want to reassure the Conservation Commission that this similar design, should we get the zone change of protecting the wolf swamp, etc., would be within this same property. So whatever we did here to satisfy engineering-wise, design-wise, environmental-wise, it's going to occur here. But we wouldn't do that until you get the zone change. Getting back to, should we get the zone change, we have to go to site plan approval. So when we do that, Ann Associates and the Harkin Engineering do the drainage counts, the septic design, where the water runoff goes. We have to go before the Conservation Commission, Inland Wetlands Commission, because they have to review where we are, design review, and all those things we went to before when we got the approval for the 6-unit townhouse section. So we did do that, and these things are in place. We'd have to do the same thing should we get the zone change. It would allow us to go to step 2.
Okay, I understand the process that you have to go through, but my question was, if you don't get the approvals to do all those things, you can change the use of that property to something other than what you're intending to use.
And then we have to go to
right
the planning and zoning.
I know, but it's already been changed to a TS2, sir.
No, but TS2 gives them the latitude to, again, if we submit a use to which, a glass factory, one of those things there, that doesn't make sense. We still have to submit that to P&Z through their approval process.
I think your question sounds like if they rezone to TS2 and either don't get the approval that they're looking for this residential development or change their minds, not unlike the fact that they've already changed their mind so far, there are a list of 26 permitted uses in the TS2 zone, and those would all be permitted either by special permit or otherwise, depending on the specificity. So.
But just for the record, we changed our mind from still residential. We went from a townhouse and we went from 6 units to 5 units. So we still kept in the same vein. So when we changed our mind, it wasn't something that was worse of situation. We consider it consistent use of that property. That's what we're hearing.
Sorry, I keep going again. You suggested that you did a water retention or whatever that was over there. But if you look on the map over here, where you have those 5 yellow spots, they're butting right up against the property lines for these neighbors over here. And if you go down further, they're butting right up against our road, which is a private road not taken care of by the town. So if something were to go wrong with your ecosystem that you have put in place, we would be responsible for repairing that, not the town. So I have grave reservations about our retention system. And believe me, Gatehouse West or whatever that thing's called is it's pretty. It's nice. It's good looking. But it's not good looking in the back of my neighborhood.
Again, what we have here is we have these particular units just to show how many we think we get zoning ones. When we do the final engineering, we may find out that this house may go because we need a retention situation in the situation here. And that would be, should we get the zone approval, we have to prove that all our drainage, our septic, water collection services will occur here. So this may change, we may need to pull these a little farther in different directions. And we just wanted to show you that it was a residential approval we are seeking. Again, zone changes to TS2, which has a lot of rotten things in it. We agree.
Where's Katie Lane on that map?
Katie Lane. Katie Lane is
in relation to...
It's in the back here. This is Katie Lane. Right?
It's not on the map, but on the other one.
It's not in the right place.
I take that back.
No, I think it's not.
Any other questions from the public?
Yeah.
So does that deem it unbuildable
I have
residential?
It's
only
two. We currently have 5 houses in residential zone property, 2590, 2560, I think they're called. I'm not quite sure why they need to go away. Because
I didn't hear your question.
they're right now, how many houses are on the properties that are being asked to be rezoned to commercial?
There's only one house on each lot.
So there's 2 houses?
There's one house.
Right.
One house on this particular lot, that's it. This is raw land here. And this
But there was an existing home.
There was.
on the back line, or maybe.
Right.
Yeah, there was a right of way, so this is basically,
One house.
Mr. Mangino, currently these are zoned R7, R8, and R8. What is the maximum and minimum and average lot size of what look like 18 houses on your possible or imagined future proposal for this site? There are 18 houses, correct?
Well,
and they would each have a lot size of...
Yeah,
There's no lot.
There's no lot size. What we did is, in this area here, we laid out, because we approved with 6 townhouses, we took this visual area here and felt, in terms of proportion, that these felt comfortable with these 6 units here. So, again, they're dictated to by septic, setbacks, drainage, etc.
So you've got 18 houses, though, that would go in onto this total, onto 2560 and 2590 together?
No, these are 13 here.
13?
13.
Altogether?
We have these 5 existing.
And those already are existing?
Already approved for 6.
Okay.
Not existing.
The way it sits now is 1 and 1.
Oh, approved. Those are approved, not existing.
Not existing.
Correct. Density in the TS2 zone, if I'm not mistaken, is 6 units per acre.
6 units per acre, and presumably, so it's not these would not be separate parcel ownership. It would have to be some kind of common interest community, presumably.
His common interest was
Yeah,
individual septic
probably.
systems.
Yeah, that's probably the way it would be. They could make separate lots, but there would, I don't know what the minimum lot size is in the TS2 zone off the top of my head. But I don't think that's their intention. It would be some type of condominium ownership.
The existing Gatehouse West is all condo.
Right.
So we're just going to
Right.
extend this to the condo. It gives a little more flexibility in setback coverage, landscaping, because we're treating the outsides as one particular entity and the house you own. So it gives us a little more freedom to develop it.
And the
Any more questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Susan Ford from the Guilford Land Conservation Trust. If you've already heard that there's so much opposition from conservation groups, why do you think you would get any kind of permission to go forward from wetlands and other groups?
Well, again, when we developed the initial, what's called 6-unit approval in the rear of the property, we did it based upon the retention basin and to meet the concerns of the wetlands, conservation, et cetera, when we got this approval here. So we've got this approval to build those. Doing this,
You're putting so much more pressure on the system now. I mean, you're adding so many more units instead of small space.
again, this particular area took care of a large site. This, if you in terms of what we're doing here, see, this drainage system took care of the site twice as big. We're basically taking this little section here. So proportionally, we're going to keep the amount of water on site. This has a lot more parking in terms of commercial area, et cetera. These are just single-family houses with a driveway.
And you're pushing it much further back, closer to the swamp, is really what's happening now. Right now, it's confined to more Route 1 and a little bit beyond that, but now you're pushing well into...
Well, again, basically, we built when we call this 6-unit townhouse development, which is just adjacent to the retention pond. We're doing it better because we're creating single-family houses, less surface area, et cetera. And also, we would do those engineering studies should we get the zone change, and we would reach with the conservation, be able to prove that there's no environmental impact.
So are you putting a cart before the horse, though, on that? Or, does it make sense to have that kind of study done before you propose?
Well, again, if we don't have a zone change, then we can't do anything. So we felt that if we get the zone change, and if everybody agrees that the applicant would truly build single-family homes, then we simply do a study, because each house has to be placed based upon septic design, water retention, drainage, parking, etc. So these things, they shift around, they move around, and it makes sense if we have the ability to do that. Without the zone change, we have no ability to do that.
But you were already planning on doing so without a zone change, weren't you?
No. Yeah, we do all the study to see how many houses we have, does it make some zoning sense, does it feel architecturally pleasing that this, we'll call European type of little 55 owner makes sense to sit back there. If we feel, yes, it feels good, it may be a good design solution, now we have all the other major concerns. Take care of the environmental aspects of it, the drainage aspects. Those we think we can take care of, like 2 + 2 = 4. We'll handle those, we'll address those. If it takes removing a house, we only have 12 or only 11, that will occur. But we can't do that study until we know, we have the ability to go to stage 2. So what it does is it says, again, all these other parcels along this whole section is all TS2. We're just taking these 2 here, out of the last 3 that were left. Because this whole section is TS2.
He may be taking only 2.
Yeah, we had another question. That gentleman right there had his hand.
No,
You're all set? Okay. Anyone else from the
We're here to give you as much information, not to hide it. That's why we said, let's present what we're actually going to be doing, so
Yes,
there's no mystery.
Nick Crydell, 23 anyway. Changing the zone, or having a zone change, would that increase the value of this property considerably?
When we go before planning, so I've never mentioned values, both plus or minus for the applicant. I'm not being silly. But yeah, all of a sudden, we have the ability to have more houses there, or whatever. But again, the basis for approval is not supposed to be on dollar anyways. So, yeah, instead of getting...
So it would be feasible to have a zone change and then sell the whole property for...
Well, a couple things. Only because of the developer, which is Victor Natra, he has his office here. Gatehouse West is here. He has his family has businesses there. He's there. He's going to run in there. He's going to be living in one of these houses here. So he's a hands-on owner. He wants it to look as good as the other buildings. So these aren't vinyl sided buildings. It's going to be a nice type of same architectural flavor that's on these photographs. It would be a housing unit. So they have to be comfortable. They can't be. So when you speak of money, yeah, there's a value to it, and we're making we think a better value by, creating this same look within the trees.
So you had a question earlier. You started asking a question.
I'd just like to state my opinion.
Let's get to comments then.
Yeah, one other question before we go, because you had mentioned something about, when I asked the first question about being able to change zones and all that kind of stuff, you said, well, they've already changed their plan from the Gatehouse West project. Now, the Gatehouse West project you built for a while, and you had a number of different condos back there. How come you haven't started building and constructing those residential condos yet?
I'll tell you what. We found out that this townhouse use, which is, again, 3 stories, you have a garage, and even better than a second floor. People don't want that. People want to be able to go into a large area, a large flat area. I've got a bunch of 55 and older type of units, and that people like to have a master bedroom suite. So we said it doesn't make sense. The people are talking to, the realtors, etc., single family. So we said let's lose a unit here and make it comfortable that you actually park and walk on one level. So that's why we did it.
I know, but how come you haven't started the construction on that? You have the approvals already.
Yeah, but not for, no, we need a revision to site plan to do this now.
Oh, okay.
Because again, we have townhouse, we're going to be coming to planning and zoning, because again, even though we have the driveway in the same area, it takes a revision to the site plan.
Can you throw up the existing Gatehouse West drawing there? That drawing, yeah.
Yep.
I vaguely recall at the time, asking if it's going to be 55 and over housing is planned. What are you going to do about the multi-family or multi-level? But I also think one of the reasons that we ultimately approved that back parcel, there was a sensitivity to the fact that Wolf Swamp was to the that way. And not only was there a detention basin being built, but the impervious surface and the structure was actually being pushed away from that boundary line. Your proposed drawing shows improvements where we actually
that's why we need your reapproval.
Yeah, but just hypothetically speaking, how realistic do you think that proposal is, given that it's putting structures where we earlier had not wanted structures?
We're going to go before Wetlands Commission and before Planning and Zoning and get some feedback and see if it makes sense for everybody. What we did is we said,
I'm with you. No, but hypothetically speaking, then we're going from potentially 18, you're going to lose those 2 maybe. Now it's 16. What if you need some over there? Then it's 14. What happens when that business model falls apart, but now you've got a TS2 zone that has 27 other uses?
It's 27, but realistically, in terms of the site, realistically.
I don't know what realistic is.
Well, you're saying that if we get down to it doesn't make a good number for residential use, there's no way we're going to have, in this rear area, develop a use which is one of those, the glass factory, one of those.
Funeral homes?
Funeral, yeah. If it doesn't make sense back into here, we're not, my client's not going to have traffic going into here for a use that's not consistent with this development. You've already established what Gatehouse West is, professional space with some residential. And we're sensitive to the neighbor because we're putting housing that's of substance. So,
I just have a question to clarify.
Sure.
The density in this zone, if it were TS2, is 6 per acre, correct?
Yes.
And you have
5.09
potentially
acres.
greater density than what you're showing, if you can fit it in septic-wise, correct? Yeah,
no,
so you've
because
got
this
6,
is,
so you could
these
do
here, this is
well more than 18
6 per acre, this is
units.
more than 1 acre, this piece of property.
Right.
So
you're showing 18, but the exposure is much more significant. If you could get septic set.
Are we really approving
5.5?
Is what I just want to clarify.
No, you're not approving any units.
Units.
No, you
Right.
can't. You can't approve
Not
units
now.
because we haven't approved that septic-wise, we meet those requirements, drainage, setbacks from property lines. We're just showing that this is the flavor we see on this particular site. We may find out, as I said, we may lose this house because we may need this area for, we'll call it retention. If we do, we do. But we didn't do a study as to bringing in the environmentalists, et cetera, to analyze this if we can't do what we want to do here. So we have all those other layers to get a project that makes professional sense and alleviates all the fears.
Any more questions? I guess the lady in the back.
Yeah, it goes again to, so you don't really know what you can do. And because you just, you know, you don't know if the environmental issues will come back and say you have to rejigger things. And so you want to do a proposed change, but you don't really know exactly what you're going to be able to do with that. You may or may not be able to get there. And so I still don't understand why you don't do the environmental plan, because that will tell you what you can or cannot do. Regardless of the zoning, I mean, that way you know whether or not it's worth it to build, you know, 30 or 15 or whatnot.
Well, again, when we get this, the layers is, should we get this TS2 zone approval or whatever? Well, I'm just saying, what we have to do test holes with Dennis Johnson and Harkins Engineering to confirm the septic soil conditions. Now, we've already done preliminary soil tests on the site. We have that. We haven't designed the system, but we know that there's good areas for septic. So we always do that analyzation as to, again, this retention pond.
I think we've been on this topic quite a bit, so why don't we go to comments now?
One other question. Why are you not applying for a multi-use zone instead of a TS2 zone?
We do because it's consistent with the other.
such zone.
This is the only TS2 zone we have, like I said.
But the TS2 zone allows you a lot more freedom once you get approval for TS2 versus the multi-use zone, which goes for special permits for almost everything that's built, if I read the regs correctly.
Which zone are you talking about?
I'm sorry, multi-use.
Multi-use. What zone is that? Which zone are you referring to?
I'm sorry?
Zone are you referring to?
Multi-use zone?
Yeah, I don't
Assuming the MUOS or the MU...
MU-OS, if that's an S or a 5. But if I look at that, that calls for what you said in your letter, what we've heard about a 55 older community, but it requires you to get special permits for everything versus the TS2 zone, which is pretty free once you get the approval to do whatever you'd like to do with the land. And believe me, I'm not saying that you're not trustworthy and your integrity, I'm not questioning your integrity. All I know is I've lived in my house for 15 years and I won't stay there for another 15.
I mean, the big difference between the MU zones and the TS zone is TS zone permits retail stores and restaurants. The MU zone does not. But it does permit offices.
I understand,
Okay.
but it does with mostly all special permits rather than just being able to do what he wants once he gets approved.
Residential is by special permit.
Right.
All right, so we'd like to open up for comments, so if anyone has a comment, please.
Okay. My name is Dorothy Collini. I live at 2556 Boston Post Road. I'm in the residential zone of R7. I am right next door, well, let's see. This is a property that Mr. Adatra just bought. He had bought this property previously. This property here in back of his gatehouse, I thought was only approved, oh, maybe within a year's time, but someone has told me that it has been longer than that. When he first started out and bought this front property, when it was asked to be a TS2 zone, there was one house and there was one antique store. He came along and he built the condominium, the gatehouse. He had another house or office over here. Now he has put another house here, and I think he's put another one someplace. Now he has gotten this approved, and at one time he was talking about 16 units. This property here was foreclosed, so he bought it. And he decided at this point he wanted it changed, and he wanted to put 12 units there. Now this property, because the person has passed away, got for sale, and now he is proposing this here. Okay. This property over here is still residential, R7 and R8. The front has nothing there. There's one house there. I live in the little spot over here, which is R7. I've been down to the zoning board and the meeting. I've been here for 50 years. I've been talking about Route 1, and it keeps on getting busier and busier. I have my mailbox across the street. I couldn't get across the street. Now it's on my side of the street. We've talked about that we don't want Route 1 to become like Route 1 in Branford, Orange, or Milford. Although I am here across the street and all the ways down to the Branford line, with a couple of exceptions, there's about 20 residential housing. There is a property over here, which it says it's commercial. A golf range was going to be put up, and it never succeeded. There's a nursery from North Haven. He has, which was a Montana's horse farm, and that has is in the process of being sold. Over here is Sullivan's property, which is now for sale, which is right on the Branford line. We know that that's going to get developed. We're trying to make it so that this part of Route 1 isn't as busy as Route 1 usually is. In Madison, you go to Madison, you have a little bit of business, and then you have the residential housing, and then you have the businesses again.
So you don't want the area developed, basically.
So actually, I really don't think that we should have TS2 zoning there, because as you see on the other side of Route 1, it's all residential. Also down here in Katy Lane, this property is butting up against Katy Lane, in which people bought their houses, which must have cost, I don't know, $400,000 or plus more.
So you're concerned about the intensity of development that would happen if this became a TS2?
Right, plus the traffic.
I understand. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Go ahead.
I'm Mark White, 1 Katy Lane. My concern about this would be if you allow TS2 zoning, and like everyone has said, they go above for the planning and zoning for this. You deny it, you change it so the profitability of the whole thing doesn't work for them. You already let the house out of the barn, the horse out of the barn, because now they have all these other uses that they can continue to try to develop. And let's face it, the Gatehouse is a nice property. I'm not sure is a good developer, but the bottom line is you're dealing with a professional developer here. You're not dealing with someone who wants to put a one-man store in here. So they have a lot of time, resources, experience to maybe do something differently commercial if you give them the TS2. So that would be my concern, is that not this, what this is, because this is fantasy right now. They can't do this. They're just showing you this. This doesn't mean anything. You give them TS2, now the whole world opens up for what can be done there. So I think Guilford, I've been here for 6 years. I grew up in West Haven. Perfect example of years and years of poor zoning, poor decisions, allowing developers to, give them latitude based on, what was a plan, and totally different stuff goes in there. So do you want a dense town like East Haven or West Haven, or do you want to keep Guilford? The reason Guilford is what it is because of conservative planning all these years. You start opening up the doors to large developers to give them a lot of flexibility. These guys, this is what they do for a living. They're not in business, to make friends, or in business to make money. So that would be that's my comment.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Anthony Collini, 2556 Gloucester Post Road. I lived there since 1950. Got married 54, 55? 50. I should know that. I got the lessons. 55, and we've lived there ever since. It's basically been a residential area all this time. It's been residential from our property all the way down to the Brantford line, for a couple of exceptions in between. The main thing here is that, and it's been pointed out several times, is that once you go to TS2, these look great. The intentions are sincere, I'm sure. But when it comes down to dollars that the developer is working with, we have to face facts. Dollars governs whatever is needed. And so that, with the, as you pointed out, there's 26. I counted them too. 26 options that he has if he goes to TS2. And if you read that list, you would want 80% of them next to you. There's the facts that the points that were brought out about the wetlands. These are very serious things that you can put in control, leaching field, drainage systems and all, and I've been a little bit familiar with that, being an engineer myself, that these things work sometimes, a lot of times, most of the time, but there's always a time that it doesn't work, or it gets overburdened. And that's a concern to all of us in town, not just myself. We really would like it to stay residential. If there was, I think someone pointed out the other zoning, that's a possibility where you go in, you want to build a house more than what is allowed now, which was, I know there's only one allowed, only because my father bought all that land back in early 50s. He bought all that land. And he was only allowed to put one house on 7 acres of land. 3 houses on 7 acres of land. Now, with this other zoning, alternate, I forget what you call it, you can put more than one. And that's probably a viable possibility. But to allow the TS2 to go ahead, might as well forget it, because you don't know what you're going to have there. Not only for me, but for anybody.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Christine Healy, 2 Katy Lane. Just to reflect a little bit, I'm the homeowner that is adjacent to this property. One of the reasons I moved to Guilford over 30 years ago was because of the ruralness. I'm originally from Newtown, Connecticut, and Guilford reminded me a lot of where I grew up. I've lived here for 30 years. 12 years ago, my husband and I purchased this property, which is the property that's adjacent here. And we love the whole area. Katy Lane is private. I can look out my window, I can see deer, I can see hawks in my backyard. My concern is not only that aesthetically it's going to interfere with my property, we're concerned financially about how it's going to affect our property value. Presently, if I go out on my back porch, I took some pictures, and I know this is not professional, but I just wanted people to see the view of what we see. This is our home in our neighborhood. The home values are anywhere from 400 to 500,000 in value. I look out the window and I can see the construction materials and the trucks. And it's really disturbing to me that this might be developed and become residential, and change from residential to commercial. I'm really concerned about the nature of how it's going to affect our neighborhood, our property values, and we have 6 acres that border this. I'm concerned about how it's going to environmentally affect us. So overall, I would just like to say I'm really against any kind of change that would allow us to have commercial buildings right in our view, because right now we can see everything right from our back porch. So I just would like to say I'm against this.
This is actually comments against and for coming up.
Oh, okay. Well, I've already got mine.
Isn't that what we're doing?
I thought we were already.
I thought that's what we were doing.
You just said comments.
He just
The
said
way
that
it worked.
Can I just clarify your concern? So you talked about the density or commercial buildings.
If it was in another, let's say it wasn't TS2, let's say there was this other zoning, MMU, or what this gentleman spoke about, and I'm not sure where you could still have that type of dense residential versus right now there could be one house on that lot versus 6 or 7 that are proposed. If it wasn't TS2, if it was this other zoning, are you also against that or strictly the commercial or the possibility? Just to clarify.
They certainly would have a right to build a house on it, the way it's zoned now, correct?
Right, but what I was trying to say, because most of the comments seem people are more worried about if it becomes a commercial TS2, where if this plan doesn't work, they could potentially put one of 26 different things here, versus if it was another zone, the zone that was referred to. What was? Can you?
No, I wasn't referring to that. I was just asking.
Well, if there is something that does exist that allows a dense residential population, where he's not going to be limited to one residential house, but he could potentially get 6 on that back partial. Are we still not? Right. So you are against any of that type of dense development, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all. That's what I was trying to get at.
Private residential area.
Could I just address one thing? One thing is on this particular zoning map that you can all see. This is the gatehouse. This is this area we're talking about the plot. This is all TS2, Mr. Mayor. You know? Oh.
They might be making the
Oh, no. Basically, this whole strip along here is TS2. So, for example, where Maritime Grill is, they can go out of business.
We understood that when we bought the property.
Okay, put one of those, put one of those other things. So there's a whole list of TS2.
Can we just continue with the people that are against?
Are there any more comments?
Comments, go ahead.
I wrote a letter to Mr. Bauer. I don't know if you received it, but may I read it?
What is your name?
Lisa Huck?
Yep, I have it over here.
Okay.
Please read it.
Or I may improvise a little bit.
Do whatever you want.
Based on some of the things I've heard tonight. I'm in opposition to the zone change. Again, 2498 Boston Post Road, which doesn't sit actually on the Post Road. It's a rear lot from 2496. My property is half residential, so the TS2 doesn't go that far back. The back half of my property is residential, and the front half is whatever it is, some sort of commercial zone. I think that the addresses of the properties in question, it can be deceiving because one might think that it's all along Boston Post Road, but these are actually set back as they are, as mine is a setback from Boston Post Road. So my house is actually sort of more on Katy Lane than it is on the Boston Post Road. And it's a quiet neighborhood into which Mr. Anatra's proposed development would intrude. My neighbors who are sitting around me moved here for the best of what Guilford has to offer. Large lots, plenty of wooded land, an abundance of wildlife, and a quiet residential cul-de-sac bordering Guilford Land Trust property and other residentially zoned, or what they fully expected would be residentially zoned land on into the future. The wooded areas near our homes and the occasional spring that runs through part of the neighborhood is home to an interesting variety of wildlife, including deer, red fox, fisher cats, hawks, owls, turkeys, and spotted salamanders. I have no doubt that the development proposed by Mr. Anatra would radically and negatively impact the quality of life and the property values of the homes on Katy Lane. Along with increased noise and potential of visual blight, my neighbors are rightly concerned about the potential disruption to well and septic systems. I also feel that the construction runoff and increase in population density would have a devastating effect on the already endangered wildlife living here. On a personal note, I am an immediate next door neighbor to another property that Mr. Anatra requested and received a zoning change for and developed. On the subject of changing one's mind, he sat at my kitchen table and told me that he really wanted to build a house, a residential house. He did not. He built the Sarah building and the ginormous parking lot, which is about not even 5 feet from my property line. And in my experience, at that time, you had also mentioned you wanted to be a good neighbor and respectful to neighbors. There was very little that Mr. Anatra did in the original plan that was respectful of the neighbors or the environment. Until pushed, I believe, by this board, he had no plans for any kind of landscape boundary or runoff protection or any light pollution abatement from the parking lot. I do hope that if you grant a zone change, that you will again require him to do that type of protection to the neighboring properties. And my final concern is this whole idea of zone change, that a developer could buy a residential zone and request to have it changed to a commercial zone. It's not fair to the property owners who thought they were buying into residential neighborhoods. And just because we live within a half mile of Boston Post Road, I think we deserve the same rights of maintaining our residential properties.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. And Steve Mordecai, I spoke earlier, just wanted to clarify, I am opposed to this, of any zone change from whatever type it is away from residential. I moved into town 15 years ago. Many of you may know my brother's a developer in town. When we looked at the lot, we went to buy the piece of property that we bought, he made me very aware of what was on Route 1 and very aware of the different types of zones that are there at the time that I bought 15 years ago. Specifically, when we looked coming down the road, we looked what was around the road. I wanted to make sure that we were going to be protected from development into commercial property. Understanding what was going on in the town at that time and how we were developing the Route 1 and what was being proposed about on developing Route 1 from the Madison line to the Branford line. What appealed to us is the fact that we were surrounded by residential property. There wasn't any threat to us that commercial would come in. We either had residential property around us or we had Guilford Land Trust. There was one piece of property, which was that golf course or the driving range that was down behind Mark's house. That was the only concern that we may have, and that was my understanding within light industrial, if anything. But now I've come to find out it might have been residential and I was not aware of that. Now you're thinking about changing that dynamic. The property that we have, which is it's a very lovely 7-family home subdivision that Angela Moscato developed starting 20 years ago. And by doing this and putting in this type of dense housing that close to our property, because when he's talking about those 13 homes, that's running right next to our land, right next to our driveway, that our private road coming down. It's not only next to the Healy house, which will probably be 4 of those detached homes, but it's going to be 2 or 3 that are going to be running right along our private road, which right now you can't see anything. If it's a residential property, it should be zoned as a residential, and if he bought it, he should develop it as a residential piece of property, put a house on each one of them, and make your money back that way. I'd be very, I love Guilford. I'm from North Branford, but I've come to really like this town, and I think that doing this and changing these zones is the wrong way to go for us, for the people that live here already. So hopefully,
Thank you very much. Any other comments from the public? Comment commissioners?
I have any other questions.
Bob wants to do that.
No, just make a request. I think I'd like to, if it's possible, have this table to the next meeting and be able to address some of the concerns that the Conservation Commission has, discuss this application with my client, and see where we go from here. And we would either keep this open, however you do it, table it, and if we can.
I'm not sure we can take it.
I'm not sure. We don't want to PS too. Stop. George, are we required to are we required to honor a request from an applicant to table an application, or can the commission in its discretion choose how it wants to proceed?
Well, I think he's actually asking you to continue the public hearing. But to my knowledge, you're not required to do that. You certainly have the option of doing that.
Okay.
What do you think?
I myself am of the opinion that we ought to close the public hearing, and personally I'm of the opinion that we ought to close the public hearing because as part of the Table 5 discussions and as we were talking, Post Road West was going to be reevaluated. I don't think I'm going to hear anything new 2 weeks from now that's going to tell me whether
this specific change is advisable or appropriate, absent the context of a larger discussion about the Post Road West.
Walter?
Mr. Chairman, I think that it would be appropriate, I think that would be in order for us to close the public hearing and bring a motion to the floor.
Just a question for the engineer. What are you proposing if the hearing was left open to bring in? Is it specific to your residential development you're proposing or the zone change?
Two things. One, if we have the opportunity to review if there's any other areas in the zoning table or that there's another area we can address in terms of residential use, whether it's that phantom MMO development, if there is such a thing, and address any concerns about if we do something with the environmental in terms of concerns of Guilford Land Trust would have, we'd be able to decide if we're going to do those studies, be able to come back and say, yes, we want to address that, or no, we simply will have you close the public hearing and make a decision then. But it gives us the opportunity to review the comments we all have.
George, if they're going to change the zone, that would have to be a whole new, if they're going to say we've changed it from, changed our mind, which we weren't going to change previously, now we want to not be TS2, we want to be MUC1 or whatever, that's a whole new hearing. We'd have to essentially, they'd either withdraw it or we'd deny it and then they'd reapply.
Yes,
so,
that's correct.
I'm not sure that we're going to learn anything new in 2 weeks, but.
Anyone want to make a motion?
Well, we need to close the hearing for starters.
Yes, we have to close the hearing first.
So we're proposing we close the hearing?
Sounds good to me.
I second.
So then in theory we move to the agenda, but we could presumably discuss this right now and move it. Walter, you thought you might want to make a motion?
Is that in order at this time?
It is.
Okay.
So we're making a motion on this, we're not actually following our agenda anymore?
Well, I was going to,
Can we do this now?
Well, because otherwise...
You're sitting chair.
Otherwise, he has to recuse himself again.
Yeah, why don't we...
Right?
Yes, so let's make the motion now.
Mr. Chairman, this is a proposed motion for denial. Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission deny an amendment to the zoning map as proposed by Victor and Heather Inatra to change map 78, lot 16A and 16-A1 from R7, R8 to TS2. Oh, sorry. From R7, R8 to TS2 as heard at a public hearing on April 17th, 2013. This map amendment is denied based upon a finding that the proposed change is not consistent with the Plan of Conservation and Development. The Commission finds that this proposed change should be evaluated in the context of a more comprehensive study of the Boston Post Road West area. And I'll request a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Normally you want to have some discussion, but I think we
discussed it. We did discuss it.
I'm in favor of denial.
Okay.
I'm abstaining.
401. Can somebody find Ray?
We'll get Ray.
I think Reggie is what's down.
He's waiting patiently.
Just, how did you vote?
I voted yes.
I don't have to.
We don't want you to record yourself again.
Did you already approve the revised agenda?
We have.
No. Okay. All right, if I get a motion to approve the revised agenda?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's approved.
So
Okay.
Inatra is no longer on our agenda because we already acted on it without you.
Okay, good. The first item, 111 West Lane, we have a request to continue that to...
So moved.
Can I get
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's continued. Okay, next item, the Chris McManus property, special permit to cover guest... Oh, I'm sorry, coastal area management site plan. Can I get a motion on that, please?
Okay. I'll make a motion.
Sorry, I'm catching up.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that the Guilford Planning and Zoning approve the coastal site plan application for Chris McManus for 342 Water Street, map 27, lot 1, as shown on an application dated March 12, 2013, and coastal site plan lots 1, Sparview, dated 3/6/13, revised 3/20/13. There's one condition, and it's, let me just find Kevin McGee's.
Construction fencing?
The condition is basically the orange construction fencing should be installed adjacent to the proposed silt fencing, and the Town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer should be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any demolition or site regrading. Soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and hay bales. Soil erosions and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms to zoning code and consistent with coastal area management policies of the state of Connecticut.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. I will say that the three of us did do a site walk, and the question that we had, at least that I had, the main one, I don't want to speak for anyone else, was the location of the rain garden, and that has been answered. Other than that, it looked like a reasonable request, and I'm in favor of it. Any other discussion?
I agree. It doesn't look that they're going any closer than the existing house already is. And the bedroom concern has been addressed.
Very good. Okay, anything?
Sorry, I just wanted to say that there are no neighbors to speak of for visual pollution not visual pollution, for obstruction for other neighbors, and it looks like they've taken the wetlands concerns into account.
Very good. Okay, then, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, unanimous. Okay, next item, special permit to convert a guest house and ice cream shop. Before we get a motion on the table, I think on this one I'd like to have a little bit of discussion.
Well, first off, the clue would be the request to waive the site plan. That's the...
Well, that's going to be part of it. I think we need to discuss before we figure out what we're going to do here. You know, again, what we got, I think, is a classic situation of a residential zone where we have neighbors who have a concern about slowly but surely some other property looking like it's taking on more of a commercial flavor over time. Now, the applicant certainly is allowed to request this by special permit, so it is a permitted use if under special permit, so they're not doing anything that's completely out of the ordinary here. Trying to balance the needs of everybody here can be difficult. This is a tough case. However, while I'm not really opposed to the creation of the ice cream shop here, I do have a number of questions, and there have been some legitimate issues, I think, which have been raised by some of the neighbors. So at least before I'm ready to vote on this one, I think I'd like to get a couple of items squared away, and I'd like to hear from input from the other folks. First one is on the professionally prepared site plan. There's been a lot of times, I think, in the past where we've acted without a professionally prepared site plan. Most of the time, it's pretty clear when we don't need one. But there have also been times when I think we've acted on it and we didn't have before us exactly what it is we were approving. And in a close call like this, I think it does make a difference. So while I'm not sure we need, a professionally prepared one, I think we need more information than what we have today. I think what we certainly need is a better view of where the parking and the traffic flow is going to be. I think we need to know where the garbage containers are going to be, since there was an issue raised about that. And I also think we need to get some identification on there as to the lighting and the potential impact that may have on any of the neighbors. So that would be one area. The other thing is, while I'm not sure we need a full-blown traffic study, I do think at a minimum we should get the Guilford PD, George, to weigh in on what the traffic impact could be. And I think we'll need to rely to some degree on what the applicant tells us they anticipate the additional traffic to be. And then we need to have the chief or somebody in the department to talk to us about that, or give us an unbiased opinion as to what impact that may have on safety. The other thing, too, that we should probably bring up with him, or I don't know if it's him or Public Works, the stop sign that apparently used to be there but it's no longer there, is that a state road or is that a...
Not back there.
Back there, yeah,
not where
that's
that stop sign
so.
That would be the police.
Yeah, we probably want to just bring that to his attention. Now, maybe there either should be a sign or there was a sign, I don't know. But if there was, it probably should get replaced, and then that should be factored into the impact it's going to have. So where I'm, making a long story short, I guess where I'm coming out is I propose we continue this until we get some additional information, but I think we need to discuss it to make sure it's clear, so that when we go out of here, the applicant is aware of what they need and what staff needs to do to move this forward. Okay, I've said my spiel. Anybody else?
Just to clarify your comment, Ray, you're saying you don't think that it rises to the level of requiring an actual site plan drawn by a surveyor?
Yeah, that's but I think we certainly need more than we have now, okay? What do the other folks think? Maybe?
Well, what the site plan gets you also is not only it clarifies exactly where everything is located and precisely where the dumpster is going to be, or the garbage can is going to be, or the lamppost is going to be, or the tables are going to be. It also tells you where the adjoining property is, and presumably if there are landscape improvements, they would be shown rather than...
That's a good point.
We could also go up and do a site walk or a site visit just to kind of get a handle on what this property looks like. I mean, I'm sympathetic to the notion that they shouldn't necessarily have to be hiring a surveyor, but at the same time, this strikes me as a commercial operation. I actually like the idea of it, but when I think of the Durham ice cream, or I think of, what is it, not Race, what's the other one? Over in North Branford. I've been to various dairy-related ice cream facilities, and they oftentimes are doing quite a brisk business. And I'm reluctant to sign off on, gosh, this seems like an awfully warm, fuzzy idea without any sense of what the impact might be on the properties surrounding and the roads. George, I don't think I would raise to the level of a formal traffic study, but it might behoove our discussion to question and contact the Durham Ice Cream or other ice cream shops and get a sense of what kind of daily traffic they have, which could then be used to inform the police commissioner about, are we talking 1,000 cars a summer evening, or are we talking 500? And you know, that may be one way of getting a handle shy of a full-blown traffic study.
I mean, again, you got to use the right context. I mean, it's not just an ice cream stand. It's an ice cream stand on a farm with animals and some other stuff. So to the extent that that means you're going to get more or less ice cream traffic, I don't know, but if we could factor that in. I mean, I also think, again, frankly, a site walk is in order, because we've heard testimony that it's 50 feet away. No, it's 20 feet away. I mean, a site plan would show you the line, but I think if we go out there and take a look at the trees and get a better sense of how well the trees really camouflage the lighting and where the lighting is going to go, that would be important too. So I think I would like to schedule a site walk for this thing.
So what you want to have?
Well, I just want to get a little more discussion, then we'll summarize clearly and see if we get a consensus on what it is we're asking for.
Yeah, I think the points you made are very good, and same with David. The way I look at it, this is really not a real new business. They have a reputation. They've been noted as being very responsible. There is traffic in the area, and their business has generated traffic. The question is, how much incremental traffic would be generated because of the ice cream? I mean, that is a big issue. We really don't know. I can't visualize that street. I mean, is it going to be a problem? I think the only people that could really answer that would be the police. The police chief probably should have to look at that and get a gut feeling of how much additional traffic. I tend to favor the current business owner there because of the fact that they are responsible, they are good neighbors. Obviously, some individuals feel that it could be a detrimental effect with the ice cream stand. But I think overall, I think they have shown that they're good business people and good, respectful neighbors.
Right. I mean, when it comes up for a vote, if we're not going to vote on it today, we could also put a one-year limit on it to see.
Sure. That's a good point.
We've heard testimony that they're great people and they know how to run a business, and I'm sure they're going to try their best to make sure there's no trash, noise, et cetera, et cetera. So we could do that, and if it works out, we could
Sure.
extend it at a later date. But if the situation gets out of hand, where there are problems that are fact-based that we could really determine, we have an opportunity to pull this thing back in so it doesn't go on forever. Any other comments?
I agree with ordering a site walk up there. just to be able to address the neighbor's concern. If it is lacking some buffer, that is something we could take to the applicant and ask if they'd be willing to screen a little better. I'm kind of tossed on the whether to require a site plan, because we would see what outdoor lighting they would be planning. Maybe that's something we could do after we see the site up there. I'd also want to know about outdoor seating. You know, there was some shown on one of the plans they had, but not another. That's going to impact the neighbors versus somebody just going in, getting their ice cream, maybe seeing an animal leaving, versus sitting on picnic tables and being there for an extended period of time. And I do favor the idea of restricting it to one season, see how it does.
Frank, any?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I would go with the site plan. I would steer clear away from putting the cost burden on the applicant to get a full traffic study. I mean, it can be very, very expensive. I think getting the chief of police or whoever can give us a more professional opinion on that, I would be fine with that. I would be very hesitant also, and I know we're not here yet, but to restrict the business for one-year use. Somebody's going to make an investment. I'm not going to tell them they're going to buy between, let's say, $10,000 and $50,000 or $100,000 worth of equipment, and we're going to pull the plug on that. I would be against that.
Literally.
So yeah, so I definitely like to see the site plan. And
okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Well, sure.
I'm also a little bit concerned about a very short restriction on the applicant. That I'm a little bit confused. I understand the sort of intermediate step of asking the chief of police in terms of traffic. I'm a little bit confused about our options for intermediate choices between a full professional site plan and what we have here.
We should do a clearer poll of the commission members, because it sounded like some were in favor and some were in between, so we should like make a decision on that one.
Well, yeah, I think. What is there an in between? What's the
what
in between between this
Well,
and
I think
a full-blown
here's
professional?
my question is, what are the deficiencies in the one that's now before us? Okay, and can it be remedied?
I think Kim accurately pointed out lighting, seating, garbage.
Exactly. So I think what we would want to see on this one is, I'd like to get some idea of the property lines. Okay, so we know how far it is. We're going to do the site walk anyways, I think, but the property lines we would need. What if any new lighting is going to be put in place, and what existing lighting is there? The traffic flow through the property and a better idea of the parking. Any garbage facilities, waste pans. I think you also said there were any tables that are going to be added for people to sit at that are not there now. Did we forget anything?
Clarification on the interior, because I thought the letter said to go and then the inside showed seating in two different places. And I didn't quite fully understand the answer to that.
It's definitely not to go if there's seating in there and there's stand-up bars. So.
Yeah. So again, we probably want to know about the seating. The other thing I think we're going to need is some basis for assessing what's a reasonable estimate to increase, of increased traffic. So how many more people are coming? Now, if we can find the exact kind of a situation, a farm where they've added an ice cream stand, what would be okay, but my guess is it's going to be difficult, if not impossible.
Yeah, it's very difficult because of the fact that some businesses fail. Some businesses, not everyone is going to be successful. I guess I'll use a classic example of pizzerias. I mean, there's so many pizza places, and they turn over. Some places have been around for years, and they never are impacted by another pizzeria that opens up down the street. I think ice cream is the same way. So the fact that they open up an ice cream doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to double their volume of traffic.
No, you're right, and that's what I'm trying to get.
I might suggest that my understanding, I think the applicant's listening to what we're saying, and we can spell that out a little bit more carefully, exactly what you want. Obviously, you want a more careful site plan, more accurate drawing, maybe to scale, showing these features. Whether they want to try to do it themselves or hire, a professional is up to them. And my suggestion is we ask them to do the research and show us the documentation for how they arrive at what their expected business and therefore traffic will be. They can research comparable facilities and obtain information on.
How do we check those numbers?
Pardon me?
Well, I think we're gonna just-
So we can check the reasonableness of it. And then, once we have the business, the number of customers, then we can ask the police chief and the town engineer to translate that into trips per day and the other traffic considerations, and to look at the specific environment there that we have. So my understanding is that that's what you want. We can direct the applicant to do that work for us and then review it. You're also planning on reopening the public hearing?
Yeah, oh no, we are. We're going to need to reopen it to take in the new...
How expensive would it be
No, I'm sorry,
to do
we
a
can't
traffic?
take any more input right now.
How expensive is a traffic study, to undertake? How expensive would that be? Because this is a small business, and, X amount of dollars could be the difference between a loss and profit.
Well, they're free to do a traffic study if they want to, obviously.
Right.
But what would the cost be?
I don't.
It'd be probably significant.
I mean, I think they're on a low of 3,500 all the way up to 12.
Yeah, so that's not practical.
The way we're leaving it is, if they want to do one, they're welcome to. But if not, at a minimum, what I'd like to see is some reasonable estimate of what's going to be added to the existing traffic based on their research. And then we need to bring that before the police chief and get a assessment from a professional like the chief.
What's our rationalization for not doing our own due diligence in terms of traffic of other ice cream facilities? I'm just trying to understand why.
Well, I guess what I would, just from our point of view, ask them to do the initial research, and then we can follow up and double check rather than we do
All right. I like the following up and double checking aspect. I don't like the, we'll look at it and decide if it looks reasonable.
They know the business, presumably they have models that they're probably looking at as something comparable.
One would assume they've decided it's a good idea.
Ultimately, it's going to be this commission that assesses the credibility of it, so the applicant has the burden of demonstrating that, and we will have to assess the credibility of those numbers.
Right, we can do that.
So at this point, we are not going to formally, or rather, we're not going to require a formal survey site plan, though they may find it to their interest to hire somebody to do it.
We want a more detailed site plan drawn to scale.
To scale with the information that we've talked about. We want the property lines, we want any changes to the lighting, and we want to see the existing lighting. The garbage cans or facilities that we're going to have there. The tables outside and inside, what the increase is going to be. And did we forget anything?
A more careful layout of parking, I would suggest.
Right, the parking or the flow would be helpful, since that was raised as an
landscaping
issue.
that might be suggested by the interaction with the neighbor, something that they might propose.
Well, the other thing they may want to do, and this is purely up to them, is to try to see if they can negotiate a settlement with the neighbors. If not, then so be it. We'll take it up and vote. But I also would say let's schedule a site walk, if not this Saturday, the following Saturday.
I'd like to suggest that we continue this at least from a month from now, not 2 weeks, in order that everybody can do all that properly.
Right.
May 15th.
So let's reopen and schedule for the 15th.
Good.
Reopen
Okay,
and
so
continue to
we
May
will
15th.
also reopen the public hearing and schedule the follow-up for the 15th of May.
All right, reopen.
All right, so I guess we sort of have a motion, right?
I would just suggest that they look through the history of the property and see if there's a site plan, one's ever been done.
Sure, it's possible.
They may find one and be able to
You
contact
may-
that surveyor and
Right.
have all their updates.
Find an A2 that's out there that you can just make some
They
changes
love
to.
microfiche or so, I mean, there may be a
We'll
local
help them in
person
that
that can
regard.
help them with that.
All right, so
Move that we reschedule or reopen and continue to the second meeting in the month of May the 15th. What day? 15th of May 2015.
okay, do we get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, we have the LED billboard amendment as well. That's, oh, I'm sorry. 10 minutes? Why don't we change the
I need some water.
DVD right now?
You don't think we can do LED in 10 minutes?
Okay, we're back on the record. This is the LED billboard amendments, proposed change to section 27058L6. What I'd like to propose is, before we actually put a motion on the table, that we have a little bit of discussion to get a general idea of where folks are on this, and then we can make the appropriate motion to move this forward. I'll go first, and then what I'd like to do is go around the table if possible. This is a tough one, okay? It's a lot of opposition to it by the public. The applicant's in, though, does deserve a fair hearing and a look at the facts. So I thought a lot about it. I looked at a lot of the material that was submitted over the past. Honestly, where I come out is I don't have a problem with the LED. I realize you have to give a little to get a little. The billboards are non-conforming. We ought to be looking at reducing the non-conformity. Now, the proposal here, which I will also say, having said that, we need to work on the wording here. I think Shirley Gerioni pointed out a good point about this, but we are trying to reduce the number of non-conforming billboards. This is an opportunity, I think, to do that. We have to give a little to get a little. The other thing I would say is that, you know, technology is moving forward, like in a lot of different areas, and I think you're going to see more LEDs. I have to say, you know, to be honest, when I've driven up to Hartford along 91, they do catch your eye more than the traditional billboard. So, I mean, there's no question about that, which is probably part of why we're doing this. However, we do have the opportunity to reduce, in my opinion, significantly the nonconformity that exists. But in order to do that, we have to give a little. With regard to the proposed amendment, I know it's already going out for public hearing and we never can broaden it. However, I would propose we make it more restrictive with the following wording, and this, again, everybody's going to get their chance to discuss it, but that we still require the reduction by a minimum area of 50%, but that we also add some wording to indicate that the number of signs currently existing must also be reduced by at least 50% rounded down. So, for example, if there's 2 signs today, it's got to go to 1. If there's 3 signs today, it's got to go to 1. If there's 4 signs today, it's got to go to 2. What we don't want to see is the area reduced. So let's say you have 4 signs, and we reduce the area by 50%, but now we have 4 smaller signs that just as the area. So I would make a modification to also include that as a condition. And in addition, where it says, number 3, the sign is in compliance with all the rules and regulations of the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation in effect at the time of the adoption of this regulation, I would change that to read at the time the application under this section is actually filed. So anyways, that's where I sort of come out on this. Why don't we go around the table?
Can I
sure.
just clarify really quick? So you're saying to add that reduce the number of signs by half plus the area. So
yes.
So if they're going to go from 2 signs, I mean from 4 to 2 plus 50% of the existing 2. Right?
Well, no. What I'm saying is that 50%. So they've got 4 signs of area X.
Yeah.
They got to reduce that area X by 50, and they got to reduce the 4 signs to 2, which is, I think, what they've indicated they want to do. What we were worried about is if you just left it area, then you theoretically could wind up with 4 signs half the size of what's there now, which we don't want, because we really want that conformity reduced. So that's where I come out. Okay, Peter?
Yeah, as a rule, I don't like billboards at all. I mean, I wish we didn't have any. But obviously we do have billboards, and it's a non-conforming use, and we have to live with it. I think LED billboards have a lot more advantages than the static, and that is, you know, we've had 2 major storms, Irene as well as Sandy. And if the town could use these LED signs or billboards, and when we have an emergency, I think that would be a big plus to the community, knowing what's closed, what's open, and so forth. And actually, I saw that driving through Pennsylvania. I saw an LED sign that basically the community was running for whatever things were happening. I think that's a big plus. So I think we would have, obviously, if we approve it, it would have to be on the condition that if there is a town emergency, Amber Alert, the town takes it over, and we can make the announcement. Second of all, I agree with what you said, that I don't want to see two different, a static and LED. I just want to see one billboard. So where they have on, by the diner, Mannix, I'd rather just have one LED and one LED on the western part of town. So that's where I feel. I think LED is here to stay. I think the town could benefit from it, and if we can reduce the billboards from 2 to 1 or 50%, like you pointed out, I think it's a good.
Well, I think it would be going from 4 to 2. Right. Their proposal is one of which would be an LED, one would remain static, which is what's there today. So
I'd rather have one LED and forget about the static.
Well, but that's not what the regulation says, so you'd have to change the wording to make it more restrictive.
Your language would permit them to have 2 LEDs if they want.
That's right.
As long as,
as long as
the area is half of
the area is half and the number of signs are half around the town.
Just so I understand,
Sure.
are you saying that they have to go from 4 signs to 2 signs?
Right.
And let's assume that they're the 2 signs that are facing towards Madison.
Yes.
Do those signs also have to be 50% smaller than their existing?
No.
That's what I was asking.
No.
Well, then that's not what you said.
Then we need to change the word. My intent was to say that the total area is less than 50% and the total number of signs is a 50% reduction. So we want them to leave the 2 signs that they have. They can still use the 2 signs they have, but what we didn't want to wind up with is 4 smaller signs that are each half the size. So you really haven't eliminated much.
And how are we
going to say that?
Well, we're going to have to, I just winged it, okay?
All right,
Well,
that's a discussion
let's get
still.
a feel. I mean, if we're in agreement that that's okay, then we can wordsmith it. If we're not, then we may not get there.
But you don't mind if they have a static and LED? I think they should get rid of the static, the vinyl, and just go with LED.
For both or for
both?
one?
Well, basically for the whole town. In other words, just have one LED on one side of town and one LED in the other side.
Where's the one on the other side of town?
Well, Bishop, where Bishop's is in that area.
We decided that wasn't a billboard.
Yeah,
That's an on-site sign.
It's an on-site sign. It wasn't really a billboard.
The only other ones are there's one on the highway behind Fonticello property.
Where the gym is now.
Yeah, right behind
Lighthouse Square property.
Right, and there's one on the post road up on top of a hill on the other side of the post road, only it's one sign, which was what I got.
On the Milano property.
On the Milano, which got me to then trying to understand, does that sign, if you want to reduce the number of signs, there's only one sign, so to reduce that, there wouldn't be a sign.
There wouldn't be a sign, that's right. There's no, unless,
why would he?
Well, do we really want him to change it to an LED?
Well, but that's, now we're going back to the 50% size as opposed to the number of signs.
But the LED,
So I'm trying to,
the LED is where the town has an advantage. We could utilize that for Amber Alert. If you have vinyl, you can't. So I think
there's a real important legal question. I don't think you can take that property.
Right, I mean, that's.
But they would have to.
Well,
No, you can't just say, by the way, we are going to take your property because we think it's important.
There'd be a taking, and I think we would have a constitutional
That I don't
issue,
think you
probably,
can do.
Have
Yeah,
we
government.
addressed anywhere that the LED is specifically prohibited in
Well,
our
that's-
regs?
that's
Did
my
that
other-
come up anywhere in all the discussions?
There are some things in the regs about you can't use LEDs for some of the other
No, well,
signs, right, George?
No, that's my biggest question is that right now it says the following signs shall not be permitted. No flashing, cycling, intermittent, light reflecting, revolving, moving, continuous strip lighting, or image display, parenthesis, LCD, LED, etc. signs will be permitted. These kinds of signs aren't permitted, period, except for barber poles. So what I'm trying to, the fundamental thing that I have a problem with is that we don't allow billboards and we don't allow LCD signs. And our proposed solution based from the applicant's request is let's allow LCD billboards when we don't allow either of them whatsoever. And the point of a non-conforming use is that somebody says, I have this use and we can't take it away from them and they can continue to use that. But the notion is that at some point the non-conforming use falls away and you move towards conformity. Adding LCD is not a step towards conformity. In fact, it's a step in the opposite direction. And if in fact the business model falls apart at some point and they say, you know, these billboards aren't really working on a business model for us anymore, that's the whole point of a nonconformity. At some point somebody says, you know, a store of this size doesn't work anymore. It's either going to be bigger or it's going to be smaller, and that nonconformity goes away.
But this hurries the process along to get them down to less of a non-conforming use. So we have that opportunity before us. I mean, it comes down to a judgment call.
I had the same sentiment you had, that it's not permitted, but is it our obligation, I want to say, to try to make something less non-conforming, right? To reduce the non-conformity.
Exactly.
Arguably, you're saying that maybe that's not reducing it. My view is I think it would be if we're eliminating 2 of 4.
I think it's opinion, really.
Right.
Whether going
That's
to LED and electronic billboard is less non-conforming than
I see
vinyl displays.
David's point where he's saying, well, if we just let them keep the 4, eventually it's not going to pay to have them, they're all going to go away. Whereas if we allow an LED to come in now, that's going to stay there forever. So I mean, I understand that argument, but
what about the other notion, just in terms of whether it fits in with the area? All the other LCD billboards that I've seen are off of the highway, off of I-95, and they're big and they're tall and they're up in posts. This is going to be shining into the diner, frankly.
But I'm not, I mean, you know, that's the way the technology's moving. I mean, it is more brilliant. It does catch your attention more. You know, I mean, that's.
Does it make sense?
It's
this
cleaner.
low to the ground
It's
and this
cleaner.
close to.
Well, that's their
what
call.
I'm asking.
I mean, that's the applicant's call. It's not.
Wait, what's the applicant's call? I'm asking if it makes sense to have these signs in this location as opposed to the ones that are off the highway on tall poles.
I don't know. It's there now. I mean, they must be. They want to put the money into changing this, so it must be of some value. I mean,
It's of immense value. I think that if we're really looking to reduce a nonconformity, then we should ask our legal counsel about amortization. That obviously wasn't raised by Attorney Lee. Amortization on non-federal roads, non-federal highways has been upheld in other circumstances, and if we want to, in lieu of payment, give the applicant, give CBS Outdoor a certain amount of time to remove those billboards, typically 5 to 7 years, then they can remove them in that time and we could eliminate our costs. Obviously, there would be litigation associated with that, but we would most likely prevail. But we really, in order for us to do that, we really would have to ask our legal counsel about it. That would be the fastest, most efficient way to reduce the nonconformity, as Mr. DeAndrea and the chairman have suggested.
my question though is, I mean, I don't understand. Explain that to me again. You could sue them and tell them to take it down?
No, we would just, in lieu of a taking where you pay for the item, right? You pay for, say, a piece of property, like in the New London case, right? They took those pieces of
Eminent
property.
domain?
and they
Are
were
we talking
going
about
to
eminent domain?
Well, when it's a billboard, there are several other related terms that we would have to ask our legal counsel about. But when it's not on a federal highway, we can consider simply giving them a certain amount of time. That time has a value to them. And once that time has elapsed, those billboards must be taken down. Usually that time seems to be 5 to 7 years. But in order to determine that, we would really have to discuss it with legal counsel.
But is there any precedence of this happening?
Yes, there is, and it's been upheld by the Supreme Court in other states. Now, Connecticut law is a little bit unclear to me up to this point, but it certainly bears looking into if, in fact, our goal is to eliminate the nonconformity. Now, I appreciate that you guys have said that. Now, obviously, if we were to allow an LED, the billboard would be worth much, much more overnight, and any kind of taking that we would attempt after that to reduce the nonconformity would be more expensive, or alternatively would take more time.
I mean, I just don't know if we want to go down that road.
I'm not saying that we do want to go down that road, But the other thing that we don't want to do is we don't want to create a cycling light at one of the most dangerous intersections in this town. The Route 1 connection to 146 has been, since I was born, one of the most dangerous intersections. On our site visits just the other day, we were discussing how some people actually take alternate routes to avoid that particular intersection. We've got a couple of restaurants right there. Yeah, I wanted to leave your name out of it. There are people who physically cannot turn far enough to see all the way back. And if we add an extra distraction, and to be totally clear, that's what this is. This is a distraction. The reason that every single billboard that I've checked, including CBS outdoor billboards in the state so far in the past couple of weeks, cycles at exactly 8 seconds, which is, of course, the limit that the state has put on how fast they can cycle. The reason that it doesn't cycle every 10 seconds, or every minute, or every 3 minutes, or every half hour, or every hour, is because it attracts people's attention. Now, I understand that Attorney Lee described LED billboards as having no effect whatsoever on accidents or traffic. He gave us a packet that included the word research done by the Federal Highway Administration. Now, the packet described it as research. Attorney Lee described it as a study. My definition of a study is something that has been released. The research that was mentioned in that packet has never been released by the Federal Highway Administration. Now, I understand that it was submitted to us, but I think it was submitted to us out of order. Now, I appreciate that we were told about this research, but I think that it was essential that we be informed that it was, in fact, not released. Now, I would love to bring the applicant back in to give them an opportunity to rebut any of the things that I've just said, including involving takings that take a certain amount of time and how that applies in Connecticut. I would love to give the applicant the opportunity to explain how this research amounts to a study, or how this research actually does show what they were saying it showed, and that it doesn't matter whether or not the Federal Highway Administration has been unwilling to release it since at least 2009. But the fact is that this uptick in activity from CBS Outdoor and from other billboard companies has actually been possibly precipitated, and has certainly come immediately after a Swedish study that shows that billboards attract people's eyes for much, much too long. I have a copy of this study here, and if it is in order, I would like to put it into the record.
The public hearing's closed.
The public hearing is closed.
Right, we can't.
Based on my personal knowledge, I can still discuss it, which is, the fact is that this study shows that people look away for more than 2 seconds, and that's just the average. Now, there are derivations that are discussed in this study by scientists who are much more intelligent than I am.
But why Sweden, not the States?
Sweden are the only ones who have done the high technology eye movement study up to this point. The states did this Federal Highway Administration, but they did not, in fact, release the study because presumably they saw problems with it. Now, whether or not they saw problems with it, or whether or not they've just been waiting since 2009 until 2013 to share their knowledge with the world, is an open question, and we can all make our own determinations about that. But the truth is, we have been given research called a study that has not been released.
I mean, I'm not sure what...
I did a pretty intense review of the materials, because again, it was quite dramatic when it was, here's this phone book of research, and LED signs don't cause accidents. And you know, when I looked at it, the first question I had to the applicant was, you know, where did this piece of paper come from? And it was unattributed. Then it was referred to as the Federal Highway Department. I still haven't gotten an answer for where this summary came from. I went looking through the OAAA materials that were submitted, which is actually the Organization for, or Outdoor Advertising Association of America or something like that.
The CEO of CBS Outdoor is also the president of the OAAA at this time, I believe.
Could be, based on your personal
knowledge.
knowledge.
No, I think that they put that into the packet.
Oh, okay.
Either president or CEO. I think I
okay.
may have the titles
Yeah,
wrong.
and that material itself says that glances totaling more than 2 seconds for any purpose increase near crash risk by at least 2 times that of normal baseline driving. And as I was looking at the other materials, one of the things that I noticed was that they were kind of playing with the difference between correlation and causation. And they were saying, well, yes, the overall conclusion is that the eye glance results and the questionnaire results is that digital billboards seem to attract more attention than conventional billboards and baseline sites. But because the lack of crash causation data, no conclusions can be drawn regarding the ultimate safety of digital billboards. That's the materials that were submitted by the applicant. And in a sense, what they're saying is, yes, these things distract people, but in terms of causation, there are a lot of things that cause an accident. Rarely does somebody say, I got into the accident because I was staring at the billboard. They say, I was driving and I was distracted in the radio and my kid was yelling in the background and I got into the accident. Was the billboard part of it? Quite possibly. Was it the cause? Not necessarily, but I don't think we have to be rocket scientists to say a sign that cycles every 8 seconds, people look at it. And to the extent that they said, you only look at it for a second, well, if you look at it for a second and you wait to see, I wonder what the next sign's going to be, you're going to be distracted. And that is a dangerous intersection. I take a left on my bicycle there, and every time I do, I'm sticking my arm out and hoping that people behind me are paying attention.
I know coming up 146 onto Route 1, you can't really see it because I've done it, so you can't see it anyways.
The people who should be looking for you can see it, though.
Well, look, going up Route 1, they're taking down the 2 signs that are there that are static, so that's an improvement.
Those are the less valuable signs on the opposite
that's
side
right.
of the road.
So but that distraction's going away. Coming down, now that's where you'll be able to see the LED, and there may be some issue there if you're planning to turn onto 146. If you're planning to go straight, I don't, see where that's going to have the impact.
And what about the car in front of you that's taking the left and you're not, and you're looking at the sign wondering what the score is in the Lakers game?
Yeah. The problem is, I still don't think that it's going to be that much of a problem. I don't think whether it's a billboard or an LED, it's going to distract you anymore.
I think telephones are...
That's what the study has said, is that they couldn't draw a conclusion. It didn't say it was less safe. It didn't say it was more safe. Probably the same.
There was criticism of that study by the Maryland State Highway Administration, which I have personal knowledge of myself, which essentially said this study is flawed and asserts results which actually don't stand up when you read the materials and actually
and maybe they have a rebuttal of the Maryland study. I mean, it's going to come down to how much of a problem do you really perceive that to be in terms of adding to the safety issues that already exist.
Let me go back to a quick question. What's in it for the town of Guilford? I didn't hear anybody from the town of Guilford, even, for God's sakes, the Economic Development Commission was here. They're in favor of everything. And I didn't hear anybody saying this is why the town of Guilford is benefited
The
by
only way I
this.
see it as a benefit is reducing a nonconformity. I mean, if you don't agree with that, then we don't go any further. To me, that's the value of doing this. You got to give some to get some.
I think that, at an economic standpoint, I think local businesses will use this. I think I have no doubt that they will. It's going to become more affordable to get on a billboard now. That could be some benefit, and the emergency services being able to use it. That's the other benefit.
We don't know that we can use it, though.
Well, they
said
addressed
they
it.
could.
They mentioned that.
Didn't they?
They mentioned it in their presentation, and I've seen it. I've seen it through other towns where they made announcements driving through Pennsylvania. I don't know when it was, but if the town could use the billboards, like when we have an Irene or Sandy and so forth, I think it would be quite beneficial because people were out of power. They had no phones. maybe if that was generated through a battery and so forth, I mean, it could be an announcement that someone, you know, would help them, you know, in some way. But that's
could it? Because now you got me confused. Could it or
It's
not?
attorneys
they
on
could-
the board.
they could
I mean,
use it.
Can you potentially require an applicant that they have to turn
Well,
over usage to the town?
the applicant indicated that they would be willing to allow the town to use it for that purpose.
The applicant indicated in the petition to change the zone that they would like that. That's not the same as if they come in front of us for, if we approve this and they come in front of us for a special permit, and I'm quite confident we could not impose that as a condition.
You're probably right.
Yeah, no, I'm more than, I'm very confident about that.
I also don't have a lot of data about how often that's really been done by CBS Outdoor or Lamar or Bartlett or any of the other billboards in the state. Usually the way that I see Amber Alerts operate is on highway signs.
Frank, you did, I'm sorry.
I've never seen an Amber Alert rotate into a very expensive, prominent, alternating highway billboard.
You raised an interesting point, which is, you talked about you could see businesses in Guilford using this. During the hearing, I remember saying, gee, I noticed that of the 4 signs, 4 of them are by businesses that have nothing to do with Guilford. But if I'm a business in Guilford today, and I read our zoning regulations that say no LCD signs, and then I say, well, why are you letting this billboard company have an LCD sign? And it's obviously has some attraction because apparently it catches people's attention, as Ray said. If I'm a business in Guilford, why am I not coming to us saying, why don't we allow LCD signs elsewhere? And that's my big concern about, you know, is the spot zoning aspect of this. We have one property or one business coming to us saying, I have a non-conforming use, I want this special change made, and I'm going to word it in such a way. I mean, at the hearing, at the committee hearing, they worded it deliberately so that it really only benefited and applied to them. And then in terms of the comprehensive plan says no billboards, no LCD signs, and yet here we are saying, you one property, you get the benefit of this, even though it's contrary to our comprehensive plan. If I'm a business in Guilford, I'm going to say, hey, I want to be able to attract people to my business.
I think we already allow LED signs for like gas stations. I mean, there are places where they're allowed. So
it's
I don't.
Gas stations, and
yeah.
that's for the gasoline signs.
Right.
It's
so
just
it's
for the
not
numbers.
true that it's not allowed
And it
anywhere
has to
in
be
town.
one color.
The other
One
thing,
color.
It's for the prices.
but still, I haven't seen other businesses come and say, well, the gas stations have it, so we should have it too. So I mean, it is allowed there. So,
this seems like a private benefit to one discrete.
well, you can look at it that way, and I
let's look
understand
at it that way.
But my point is that it's also a benefit to the town if you believe this is a reduction in non-conforming use. The only reason I'm even considering this is if they just wanted to do it and change it and say, let's put up 4 of these babies, I would say no. The only reason I'm even considering this is because I think it's a reduction of nonconformity. Now, if you don't agree with that, then it doesn't matter whether we talk about safety or anything else. But I honestly think it's a reduction in nonconforming use, which is what we're trying to do here, and it is a compromise to some extent. That's why we're doing it, to me. So that's the benefit to the town, is the reduction in the nonconformity. If you don't think it is a nonconformity, a reduction, then you should vote against it. But to me, that's the reason we're even considering this thing at all. If it was 4 LED signs, I don't think we'd be here.
Is the motion, is that in order?
Well, we don't have a motion yet. We're just discussing this. I mean, I don't know if we should put one on to approve or disapprove or change the wording. I'm just trying to get a feel for where people are.
I'm willing to start with a motion, I think. I think that might, at this point, move us forward at this point.
Make a motion.
Take it.
You want me to? I'd make a motion that we voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission deny an amendment to the zoning code as follows. As set forth here, I really still don't understand the language, Ray, that you were talking about, so I'm just going to stick with the language that we've got there. The amendment is denied based upon a finding that the proposal is not consistent with the plan of conservation and development and would only benefit one discrete property owner as drafted and as presented by the applicant.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Well, you know, I still go along with what you said, the fact that, yes, billboards, it's a non-conforming use. This is a reduction in non-conforming use. There is an opportunity for the town to use it, you know, for Amber Alerts, and I think it makes sense versus the static vinyls. I'd rather not have any billboards, but I think going the route of litigation and so forth, I think it's going to be pretty expensive for the town. I'm not sure the town wants to spend that kind of money to litigate that, considering the fact we have a $90 million high school coming through. We have a budget for you know, the town and so forth. There are other areas that we'd want to spend our money as opposed to litigating someone that's going to put in a non-conforming billboard.
Well, I think Walter was talking about an amortization notion. I mean, if you deny this application, there's no litigation that's going to ensue from that.
No, there is none. I mean, if we approve it, certainly
I think
one of the
litigation
67 writers of letters will come forward, or maybe all of them together, or maybe this will just be in the campaign, I guess.
But I think going from day one, I think if it was a situation, it was a new applicant, I'd say no. And if basically the non-conforming would continue to be as is, I would say no. The fact that they're going to reduce it, and I think the town has some options, you know, some benefits potentially, I say go for it. I would go for it.
Okay, any other discussion?
I agree that it comes down really to opinion, like we had talked before. If you feel that it's a less non-conforming use, I personally do not feel that it is.
Okay.
I think going from forced static to an LED, which for all intents and purposes is prohibited, it isn't a reduction.
Frank?
Yeah, at first, like I said, I had a lot of pros in the cons to it. One of was just that it's not permitted right now. And then my other thought, and which I really didn't think about, is the height of the sign. Being that close, you know, it's really starting to make me think safety concerns, where I wasn't initially worried about that as much. But now I'm really kind of curious because of the height is a little bit different. Like I said, I gave my pros already. With you know, I thought it's a reduction in nonconformity. I think businesses will use it in town, and I'm still not sure now that Kim mentioned that we're not sure about the Amber Alerts or emergency services. I have never seen it either. I know they talked about it, but I've only seen it on the highway signs that the DOT posts.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. I'm still on the fence right now.
Well,
you may have to make it soon.
Well,
it's getting late.
Okay, let's call for a vote then. I think we've discussed it.
Motion to deny.
A motion to deny. All in favor of motion to deny?
Aye.
All opposed?
What do you have?
To a motion to deny? And I abstain. Okay. 4, 1, and 1. It's defeated. All right, moving along.
Moving along. I'm gonna jump in.
It was like,
Okay, ready.
You want me to read or you want to read?
I'll just go through it. First, campsite plans. Mark the person, I guess. Coastal Area Management Site Plan application for construction of a single-family home within 25 feet of the coastal resource, 42 and 43 Marshall Avenue. Receive and set a public hearing dated May 15, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Town of Guilford to Sachem's Head. Sachem's Heads Association, Coastal Area Management Site Plan application for Falcon Road improvements within 100 feet of the coastal area resource. Receive and set a public hearing dated May 15th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town of Guilford, Old Quarry Association, Coastal Area Management Site Plan for Old Quarry Road improvements within 100 feet of critical coastal resources. Receive and set a public hearing for May 15th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Christina Friedi, property located 120 Leeds Island Road, CAM site plan application for construction of a new residence and associated septic system and stormwater management. Receive and set a public hearing of 5:15.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we have a site walk scheduled for 5:11. Maybe we can do them together.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yep.
do that.
That's fine.
Okay, sounds
We're
good.
gonna do that the first weekend
Is that second Saturday in May, the 11th?
Yes, but Ray said he wanted to shoot for the first time.
Oh, let's try and make it.
Yeah, why don't we move them, move it back into that,
Yeah,
the first, or not the first, but the third or fourth, whatever it is. Okay, special permit for the Dudley Foundation property located at 2351 Durham Road. This is a revision to a special permit to allow events which are not associated with museum activities of the farm. Receive and set a public hearing for 5:15.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, St. George's Roman Catholic Church, 41 Whitfield Street, special permit for accessory structure over 750 square feet. Set a public hearing for 5:15.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okey-doke. A couple announcements. May 21st, 2013, 5:15 PM, Selectmen's Meeting Room is the next meeting of the Planning Committee. And on May 13th at 5 PM in Town Hall South is the next zoning committee. We have approval of the bills for Shore Publishing, 233.49.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, having no further business, call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're off the record.